In this town, every aristocrat receives a prophecy at the moment of their birth. The prediction our heroine received was not to let desire blind her. But the girl considered this to be a common superstition and lived her life without restraining her desires. It all started when her loved one betrayed her, and she was ready to give him everything. And then she also lost her little daughter, without whom she could not imagine her life. The man she still trusted loved her, the saddest man in the glittering world. This is the second prince, named George, because his mother was a slave, and he grew up being ridiculed by the nobility. Rita was also abused at home as the illegitimate child of Count Cardinale. Our heroine always told the young man that she would be on his side no matter what. She felt very sorry for him. At various social events, people constantly whispered among themselves and said that she was the spitting image of the Cardinal witch. In order to make her lover emperor, she even agreed to marry an archduke whom she did not love. The partner the father chose was the first prince of the La Spezia Empire, the abandoned crown prince. This was the king of the desert north, the great Duke of Katan, and dealing with him was a waste of time. After a political marriage to the archduke, she helped George overthrow Prince Carlos, the emperor's favorite successor to the throne. Thus, the girl managed to make her lover an emperor, but what she got in return shocked her. The news was that he had married another woman, elevating her to the status of empress. That night, when she was tormented by a feeling of betrayal, Joseph came to her and asked if everything was okay with his wife. Rita was so upset that she asked him if he could console her. It was a marriage of convenience, which she never wanted. But she had a beloved daughter, Yvonne. The maid said that the baby was very cute and needed to be hugged one more time. Only this child was able to show our heroine what true love is. She really didn't want George to be sad, and she didn't want to see his sad expression either. Seeing his smile, she did not rejoice, as if the whole world was at her feet. But Ivana's smile brought her happiness. This little girl, with genuinely shining eyes, changed her whole life. This is what is called true love. What she experienced before was not this feeling. But this happiness did not last long. One day, Rita heard angry cries about where the child was. The girl immediately had a bad feeling, so she told her daughter not to go anywhere from there. Then she tried to calm the little girl down, saying that it was just a game of hide and seek, so she should behave quietly. Suddenly the doors opened, and a young man appeared, saying that they must find this child. Let them look in every corner. Our heroine did not understand what the emperor's men were doing here, so she asked Sir Robert this question, adding that, in fact, her husband was an archduke, and was. The young man noted that she looked surprised. Lady Cardinale, or should he now call her Lady Katan? The emperor learned of the conspiracy and found evidence of treason. If she gave up her child, he would make sure that the lady was not touched. Rita couldn't believe it. Joseph refused the right of inheritance and became a forgotten crown prince. She lived peacefully all when the knights exclaimed that they had found a secret door and could feel breathing behind it. Rita wondered how this could have happened, after which she screamed that if they didn't stop right now, they would stay here forever. Robert stated that it turns out that it's not a rumor that she's a witch. Let her try using magic. The girl hated being called that, which is why she rarely used magic. When she tried to activate one of the spells, she failed completely. Rita didn't understand why nothing worked. Had too much time passed? Why now? Meanwhile, the young people announced that they had finally found her. The girl screamed that her husband was an archduke who would punish them. Were they afraid of him? But the boys answered that they were not. Our heroine grabbed him by the cloak and whispered that she didn't mean to say that. She was begging him, please, just Rita will definitely talk to His Majesty. The young man sighed heavily and stated that she still doesn't know anything, after which he added that his lordship had abandoned her, and her husband was already dead. Bringing the child and her was the emperor's order. That very day, the little daughter was taken away forever, never to return to her, just like her husband. When they met, George noted that she had lost a lot of weight. There was no need to look at him like that, because he couldn't do much either. But the prophecy about Ivona came true. It said that a half-king would come from the north and overthrow him, and the girl was a princess of mixed blood of the empire, and therefore was a contender for the throne. The girl will be able to give birth to a child again. Let her give him a son, more beautiful than this daughter from the archduke. Our heroine abruptly pulled his hand away from her face and screamed at him to get out of here and not touch her. After some time, The man said that she should leave already. The girl replied that, right, it was time to let Ivona and Joseph go. After which she asked to wait a little longer, because she returned to Katan precisely for the sake of the two. The butler said that there was no time. Let him run along the path left by His Highness during his lifetime. The emperor ordered him to bring the young lady, but the Archduke rejected the offer, and since then, he had been preparing for this situation. If the boy had given the girl away, the emperor seemed to have promised not to touch Katan, but since he refused, he said to prepare this escape route in secret from her. Our heroine was very surprised. Was he really ready to give up Katan? It turns out that he protected Ivona at such a price. This seemingly cold and inattentive man loved the little girl so much. The girl couldn't stand it and burst into tears, mentally asking the young man for forgiveness. She felt although he was overthrown, he was once the heir to the throne. For this, she was ready to get rid of the younger brother from the imperial family and put this terrible man on the throne. Could she be happy with him? She didn't want to be his wife at all. But despite this, the young man was a good husband. The young man was cold and not particularly polite, but he never accused her or insulted her. It seemed to her that the guy was absolutely indifferent to her, but for her and Ivona's sake, he was preparing a way out. Then she collected her thoughts and asked the butler for forgiveness for having been a bad housewife, after which she walked past him, saying that she would take care of everything and put an end to it. When asked what she was going to do, the girl replied that she would not allow the emperor to trample Katan. When a huge army appeared in front of the gate, the commander told them to move out of the way if they did not want to suffer. His Majesty ordered that only she be taken prisoner alive, and the rest be destroyed. Rita asked if George really said that. The guy immediately flared up and ordered her not to pronounce the name of His Highness so casually. He was warning her. The girl noted that he really likes to warn, since that's the case. Then she will also give a warning. It would be better if they didn't cross this circle. The guy laughed and replied that it seemed she didn't understand that in her position, she couldn't give him orders. After which the commander gave the order to the knights to move forward and not stop under any circumstance. As soon as they attempted to enter the circle, a powerful explosion immediately occurred, and Rita stated that she had warned them. Alchemy is not magic. There is always a price to pay. But our heroine will never allow anyone to denigrate Katan. While the girl was thinking that this magical effect would be enough, she suddenly began to lose consciousness. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain. Someone grabbed her by the hair and shouted, "How dare she embarrass him in front of the Empress?" It turned out to be her father. Rita didn't understand what he was doing in Katan. Although, wait, how did she end up alive? If our heroine remained alive, it means that the magic circle was not completely successful. The father continued to be indignant. Was it not she who told the Empress that she never wanted to marry the Duke of... The girl looked at him with an uncomprehending look and could not figure out what he was even talking about. The man pushed her and exclaimed, "How dare an illegitimate child dream of becoming an empress? George will become an emperor, and she has no place next to him." After which he slammed the door and finally added that she should not think about nonsense and should prepare for the wedding with the Duke of Katan. Rita thought that she gave birth to Ivona a year after her marriage. The girl died at the age of 6. Does it really mean that she went back 7 years? What does all this... When Rita saw her maid, she asked in surprise what she was doing there at all. Sabrine was her personal assistant, who spent her entire childhood with her. This girl has an affair with the emperor, who betrayed her and killed people close to her. But ultimately, the maid failed to escape this status, so she was abandoned and humiliated. Sabrine also said that Prince George would soon be arriving for a meeting, so she would help her prepare. Our heroine noted to herself that she did not want to see this man even in a dream. It would be better for her to dream of her beloved daughter, after which she said that it was not necessary. She did not want anything, but only wanted to rest. The assistant immediately asked joyfully if she could tell the prince this news. Rita noted to herself that she must be happy to be alone with George. Let her enjoy it at least now. It looks like they are secretly kissing, because that guy is exactly that kind of person. The young man whispered words of love to her, giving Sabrine false hope, and eventually, cruelly abandoning them both. Lying in bed, our heroine thought that if this was a dream, then it would be better to wake up quickly or let her dream of her daughter. Suddenly, she found herself in the place where she had last drawn the alchemical formula, the underground room of Katan. Suddenly a voice was heard, Telling the girl who sees the truth to look more closely, Rita immediately realized that the formula had changed. She realized that she had never seen anything like this before. Who had changed her? None of the alchemists in this city could know such a thing. The formula is the language of alchemists. What does this complex combination want to convey to her? It suddenly dawned on the girl that there was a way to protect Katan in this new alchemical system. If she can figure it out, she can save her daughter. The girl should definitely understand what kind of alchemy this is. Just let it not disappear now. When Rita suddenly opened her eyes, she noted that, since there was little time, she, of course, did not fully understand everything. But she knew one thing: there is still a way to protect Catan, which is written in the alchemical. Now our heroine is finally convinced that with this, she returned to the past. She doesn't know who or what caused this, but she has another chance. So in order to fix everything as soon as possible, she needs to know the current situation. After which she asked where Prince George was now. The maid replied that he was in the living room, and Sabrine went to tell him that Rita was ill. Our heroine said that she already feels much better, so she wants to see him. The maid was very surprised by this. Throwing a cloak over herself, the girl added that her leg hurt a little. Could she help? When they stood near the door, the maid became very nervous and said that they shouldn't go in there. She mumbled something unintelligible about the Count wanting to tell her something. Rita immediately understood that the girl knew what was going on inside, and therefore was worried about her. If you think about it, in her past life, she had servants like Rona. But she brushed off their help as cheap sympathy and kept her distance from him, unable to believe that it was genuine concern for her. After which she thanked this sweet girl for everything and, abruptly opening the door, entered the room. During this time, the sweet couple exchanged pleasantries and told each other that they missed each other very much. When the young man heard the footsteps, he turned around and was stunned by what he saw in front of him, after which he exclaimed that she had said that she was sick. Now that Rita had returned to the past, risking her life, she was not going to sit back and watch as she was deceived, after which she greeted him and said that they had not seen His Highness for a long time. The guy noted that he did not appear in the best light in front of her, but wasn't it she who said that she was not feeling well? The girl replied that she lay down and felt better. Our heroine replied that she hurried to him because she was afraid that he would wait, but she noted to herself that Sabrine quickly left as soon as she entered. His self-confidence irritated her very much. The young man said that, so that she would not misunderstand him, her maid was just a toy for him. It's just a matter of practice. He has to learn how to communicate with women. She remembers that she promised him. Our heroine and the Count agreed to help him. Rita pulled his hand away from her in disgust and asked again if she had agreed to help him. George noted to himself that she seemed a bit irritated today, after which she replied that, yes, she had prepared a camouflage potion for him. The girl noted to herself that this was before he had ruined Carlo's good name, although he was a prince. But in order to ascend to the throne, he had to tarnish his honor. And finally, using a disguise potion she had developed, George, disguised as Carlo, seduced his cousin, the Duchess, her youngest daughter, and even the nuns in the convent. Carlo's position was threatened. In the end, this method worked quite well, and the angry nobles and priests turned their backs on the crown prince. When our heroine thought about it now, she realized how dirty this act was. After the young man tried to hug her, Rita pushed him away from her, so he asked if she was jealous that he was dating other women. Our heroine thought to herself that he was the most disgusting person in the world. Maybe she should kill him right now. Although no, she doesn't have a weapon now, and George is a paladin. Paladins and saints are people blessed by the Pope at birth. They use pure white aura, called the power of the gods. They can heal themselves, so they are not easy to kill. Everyone admires them. But as for her, just because she used magic, everyone despises her. If it becomes known that she wants to kill him, then she will immediately end up on the guillotine. Therefore, in order not to arouse suspicion, it is necessary to be patient a little longer. The young man noted that, as expected, unlike the vulgar Sabrine, she is a chaste lady because she does not even allow him to kiss her. No matter how much better he is than Carlo, standing still, he will never take the throne, right? Because his brother is the son of Her Majesty the Empress. That's why he trusts only her. While Rita thought to herself that it was an ugly and annoying wound for him. They were all of royal blood. which is why he acted exactly like that towards the people she cared about. The girl will definitely make sure that the young man pays for all his sins. The young man noted that today she seemed somehow indifferent. Perhaps something had happened, something he didn't know about. Rita made a mental note that she couldn't get caught, so she had to act as usual. So she said that he imagined it. The guy replied that he actually thought she would be angry with him. Our heroine smiled and said that, as he said earlier, he only has her, so she believes him. The guy found this strange, so he asked if she knew about his relationship with the maid, but Rita replied that she did not, after which she decided to change the subject and asked how he was doing with Count Cardinale. When the young man replied that he had just come to see her, the girl thought to herself that she would have been happy to hear something like that before, but now she wanted to leave quickly and get her thoughts in order. Unexpectedly, George stroked her head and said that there were times when the Count was harsh with her, but he was not a bad man. Our heroine was angry to herself. How could she say that, knowing that she was being abused by her father? The guy continued that he doesn't want to force her to marry Joseph if she doesn't like it, but it will help him a lot, of course. He bets that her marriage won't last long. When he becomes emperor, he will make her emperor. The young man always uses sweet words to seduce her, who is exiled from aristocratic society, but now she knows the truth. After which she replied that even if the Count objected, she would still do it. George will invite her to the palace in any case, and it is so beautiful that it cannot be compared with the Count's. The young man joyfully exclaimed that, of course, he thanked her very much for this, but the girl noted that he must be busy, so he would go. Kissing her hands, the guy said that he would come by before his love left for Katan. After he left, wiping his hands with disgust, our heroine called Rona to her and told her to bring all the aromatic oils in the house, and also let him grab some disinfectant solution from the laboratory. The girl replied that she understood everything and asked if everything was okay with her. Rita replied that yes. She thought to herself that she wanted to wash everything that this scoundrel touched. Then I remembered the phrase about the girl being ready to see the truth with her eyes. What was meant? Maybe it was about the eyes described in the legend of alchemy. This is all somehow strange. First, it's better to take a break and think carefully. Now at least he knows what time he's in. This time, our heroine will definitely protect all the people close to her. The maids did not understand what had happened, because she had said that she would never marry Prince Katan. Apparently, she had changed her. Meanwhile, our heroine was thinking that in fact there was no need to rush into marriage, but she really wanted to go to Katan as soon as possible, before George came back again. Her thoughts were interrupted by the voice of her assistant, who asked which boutique she would order the dress from. The girl thought that she had previously ordered a dress from the famous designer Madame Este. She was responsible for the outfits of the imperial family. Rita spent half of her budget in Katan to buy it. She considered marriage to Joseph something terrible, and wanted the wedding to be more luxurious than anyone else's. After which she replied that she should order a dress from an unknown boutique, and it should be made more modestly. Rona exclaimed, but this is her wedding with His Highness. Our heroine objected that she was not going to invite anyone, but to herself she noted that she wanted to hold the wedding quietly and prepare for her revenge. Katan is barren and sparsely populated, and she is the one who loves this place, so she does not think she wants a celebration with many guests. Moreover, their marriage was concluded in order to put pressure on Prince Carlo. The clergy and aristocrats, to which her father belonged, insisted on this. The maid sat down next to her and said that from now on, she did not have to obey the will of His Highness, because now she was his bride. Suddenly, our heroine grabbed her by the shoulders and asked what happened. Maybe it was because, after all, Roscoe Cardinale is a terrible man who forces girls. After which she asked Rona if she would go with her to Katan. The girl cautiously objected that she was not even her personal servant. Rita replied that yes, but now she could become one. Suddenly, Sabrine's voice was heard, exclaiming that she really was going to leave her. Our heroine noted to herself, since when she started eavesdropping, after which she asked what the problem was. The maid immediately fell to her knees and exclaimed that she admitted that she was wrong. She knew that Prince George was her lover, but the prince forced her, so she could not do anything about it. Rita noted to herself that although he was a bad person, he would not force the one who rejected him. Suddenly, the girl whispered in her ear that if she didn't take her, it would turn out that the miss was an illegitimate child, and she didn't want that, did she? To avoid being at the center of a scandal, the Count, who was a clergyman, raised his wife's illegitimate child as his own daughter, Sabrine. Who knew this? Always threatened. Previously, our heroine was worried about this, but now she didn't care at all. The assistant thought it was strange that there was no reaction, so she threw her arms around her neck and screamed that she would never look at Prince. Rita thought to herself that she had previously thought that the prince had come here to see her, but maybe it was because of Sabrine that he had gone to Katan. So, if she wanted to interfere with his plans, she still needed to take a maid with her, so she replied, "The girl will take it with her, but let her not even think about reaching her dirty hands anymore." On the way, Rita thought about how Katan was always called a land abandoned by God. But Joseph was a good ruler, so he turned it into a livable city. The abandoned prince found himself in a place where who would have thought he would become an archduke. Suddenly, the carriage stopped abruptly, and the girls almost fell from their seats onto the floor. When asked what happened, the maid exclaimed that there was no need to look outside. Perhaps there was a monster there. Our heroine noted to herself that everything was exactly the same as before her regression. That monster would return, while Sabrine screamed what to do now, because she was sure that the knights never killed me. The girl replied that everything would be fine, but she thought to herself that she wouldn't be so sure if she weren't in Katan. As before, Joseph would come. In the Empire, there were two types of swordmasters who could fight monsters: the paladin who wielded the holy power sword, and the demon hunters who possessed a dark aura. Joseph, who will now become her husband again, is precisely a demon hunter with a dark aura. Hearing the cries that the Knights of Katan had appeared, our heroine immediately breathed a sigh of relief. In the capital, the boy selected knights, the bravest demon hunters, and brought them to guard the city, the land of the abandoned empire. In the future, this will be a prosperous place, in 7 years. But it is not bad here now. After Korj ascends to the throne, a lot of people will move to This time, the girl does not need to hide her abilities, so she will do her best to help him protect this place. The maid looked out the window and said that they were lucky. The Knights of Katan defeated all the monsters. It was so cool, because it was the first time she had seen them. Rita noted to herself that it was because all the people from the northern region had a better physique than the people from the southern region. Then the assistant exclaimed that Joseph was there, which surprised our heroine, since it seemed that he had never come in person before. The girl continued to babble that he was such a wonderful person. What a relief. Rita thought to herself that, yes, he was good. The forgotten crown prince, the master of the abandoned gray castle, the king of the deserted north, the one who could never smile warmly, her husband. Earlier, Rona asked why the Archduke was never talked about in high society. Rita asked if she had heard of the former crown prince. The maid replied that yes, he died of a disease that caused his skin to rot because he was cursed by the devil. Our heroine noted to herself that this is about him. Few people know. But the fact is that Joseph Katan, the abandoned hereditary principal, is Joseph Lasvezia Angelos. Because of this family, they wanted to hide the fact of the birth of the demon. So they sent him to the cold north, to this cold northern part, where everything is teeming with monsters. They probably expected the young man to die here, and no one could have even imagined that Katan would prosper so much. When the boy grew up, he began to avoid crowded places, and in the imperial palace, he was a recluse. The only ones who knew that he was the elder brother of the current crown prince were the imperial family and the temple. Despite his greatest achievement and the beauty he was endowed with, no marriage proposals. He always had a cold expression on his face. The nickname of Demon Hunter that he was given also played a role, but he was not such a heartless person because once, the young man did everything possible to protect her, the wife who was his only in word. When the young man looked into the carriage, the girl noted that he definitely looked younger than the last time she saw him. She married him when she was 20, and he was only 24. After which she said that her name was Rita Annunziata Cardinale, and that she was meeting the Archduke of Katan for the first time. But the guy objected that this was not the first meeting. Rita noted to herself that there was no need to say that he came to her debut. After all, in the imperial palace, there were so many people coming and going, so it didn't matter when he saw her. The young man introduced himself as Joseph Katan, kissed her hand, and added that they would see each other at the castle. After a while, the butler asked if she was sure that she was against renting the cathedral. His Highness was not such a limited person, Besides, wasn't this a meaningful marriage, symbolizing the union of the holy society of the imperial family? Our heroine noted about you that indeed, her father and George did everything in their power. She remembered how the guy was indignant that he was not a member of the imperial family, but was going to get married in a cathedral, which was a very arrogant decision. The girl objected that it was her decision to choose the cathedral as the wedding venue. The young man shouted that she was now on his side. Although Joseph does not like the attention, he accepted the request to use the cathedral as a wedding hall. On the other hand, it was George who forced her to marry, but scolded her for the lavish. She thought it was just jealousy, but it was probably because of hurt pride. Even though the prince was a paladin, he had never defeated a demon hunter. Therefore, she answered that, as for the wedding venue, it would be enough to make the Grey Hall their wedding hall. She knows that His Highness is a noble and extraordinary man, so Dante does not need to worry. The man asked again in surprise. Did she really know his name? Dante was the duchy's butler, whom she saw almost every day. Of course she knew his name, even the name of the youngest child. So she replied that since she was taking the place of the Grand Duchess, wouldn't it be natural to know the name of her butler in advance? When he left, Rona said that she actually wanted to refuse the dress from Madame Elvas' salon, since Madame Esta's dress was much more famous. But then she added that the lady made the right choice. She has excellent taste. This modest dress only emphasizes her beauty more. Sabrine dejectedly supported and said that, yes, Mrs. Beautiful, that is why she is famous in high circles. Rona objected that she was speaking incorrectly. It would be better to say that the lady was dazzlingly beautiful, like a bright summer rose cardinale, or that one could go crazy from her beauty. Then the butler appeared again and said that if she was ready, he would take her to the Grey Hall. Finding herself in the wedding hall, our heroine thought to herself that this was her last chance, so she would never make a stupid choice again. In her past life, Rita wasn't interested in this, but he, who was forced to marry, although he had a loved one, what is he even thinking about now? One winter day, after the birth of their daughter, she heard from him that his love was in the past, so how could she forget this desperate confession? After she had done everything she had planned, she would definitely send him to her, and the priest asked if they both swear before Laurentia that they would be united as husband and wife for life, and the boys answered that they did. Our heroine thought to herself that, of course, they would not be together forever, but she would definitely make him happy. Usually, they are supposed to kiss after the vows, but it will end with a light kiss on the cheek. But suddenly, the young man asked if he could kiss her on the lips, and if she would mind. After a while, Rita thought about how they had traveled around a huge territory in one day. Thanks for the care. Although she was thinking about how to enrich the farmsteads. Under Joseph's leadership, Katan has become a livable city, but it is still a barren land. Our heroine needs to come up with a way to cleanse the land using alchemy. Then a memory suddenly popped into her head that the young man had kissed her on the lips. Why did it happen yesterday? But now was not the time to think about it. She needed to deal with the Suddenly, a maid looked in on her and remarked that Madame must be very tired. Now that she is married, she is the Grand Archduchess of Katan, not Lady Cardinal. After a while, the girl thought that since she had regained her life, she would protect what was dear to her, and first of all, she needed to help the third Prince Carlo safely ascend to the throne. If George becomes emperor again, it will not be possible to protect Ivona, although alchemy turned back time, but it could stop the prophecy of the oracle Laurentia. The young man then told her that there was a prophecy that Ivona would become a half-queen. Rita clearly remembers the day she became pregnant with her daughter, when she spent the night with Joseph. It was the day of the foundation of Laurentia, the annual festival, when the Cuna shines brightest, the day George won the battle for the throne, the day St. Eveline was declared empress. The girl does not know if she will be able to see her beloved daughter again, but if God is destined, they will meet again, because she cannot allow her to die like this again. To do this, on Ivona's birthday, during the Laurentia celebration, she must save the third prince who suddenly died. The one who did it was definitely George. To stop the prince and save Carlo, she must build up the power of the Katan, an order of holy holies dedicated to the nobility of the empire who have personal interests and are closely related. Since George is endowed with holy power and has been appointed as the next emperor, The only territory that can help Carlo is Katan. But this city is located in the north, with monsters constantly appearing. The situation inside is not very good due to the harsh weather. But with the trick she has in mind, perhaps they can develop soil and plant crops that will withstand this weather. She also needs to develop her abilities to become independent, because if this plan works, she will see her loved ones whom she loves. If she was destined to be reunited with her daughter, she would do anything, simply because she was a mother for the first time, and did not know how to treat her. But this time, she will protect her no matter what. Therefore, it is necessary to prepare for the incident that will happen in the capital around this time. A voice suddenly rang out and asked what she was writing. So, turning around, our heroine saw a young man in front of her, although at first she thought it was a maid. The girl asked in surprise what His Highness had brought to her bedroom. The guy replied that from today, she was his wife, and that this was her first time. It dawned on Rita that today was supposed to be the first wedding night. But was it the last time? The guy continued that if she needed anything, she should let him know. But the girl didn't hear him and shouted that if he wanted to demand the fulfillment of her marital duty, then he should. Then she realized that she needed to listen to him to the end, and the young man asked again what she had just said. After which he noted that it seemed she was very worried about having to spend time with him. Our heroine looked at him and couldn't understand how he could be so sweet and innocent. Even the nickname, the Emperor's First Sword, doesn't fit with it at all. The young man added that perhaps she would not believe him, but he would not force her into a relationship that she did not want. The girl replied that she knew that he was not that kind of person. She thought to herself that maybe, just as she once hated him, he hated her. But he never showed it. The guy always tried to be polite with her. Then she said that, in any case, he came to hear what she wanted from His Highness, right? The young man replied that, yes, let him say so. If there is something she expects from him, her husband. Rita wondered if there was anything she would dare to ask him for, since she was a person who owed him a lot. So she said no, but they could talk about what they would do next in the future as a couple. After which she handed him the contract and added that it was not necessary. It would just be nice to be careful with each other. To herself, she thought that their marriage was a deal, not the embodiment of love. Her father made him her son-in-law in order to put pressure on Carlo. Carlo uses Joseph to get information about Cardinale and the Order of Saints. Of course, he will lose big, since the demon hunter is not one to keep an eye on others. Then I wondered why he was silent for so long. Maybe there were points that he didn't like. Suddenly, he asked what it meant not to interfere in each other's personal lives. The girl replied that even if His Highness had another woman besides her, it meant that she would not dare to be jealous, or he would not dare to be jealous of her, because she is only in name with his wife. But she noted to herself that, unlike her, Joseph's love is not a forbidden desire. This time, she will support. The young man noted that she took her position seriously and assigned each of them their responsibilities. Rita replied that, yes, she became his wife against the wishes of the Archduke, so she would do everything possible for the prosperity of Katan. Her alchemy, for example, would improve the lands. This would help him in other areas. Everything is written in detail on the back, so let him read it carefully, and please let him know if he is not satisfied with something. The guy noted that it looked more like a business plan, our heroine answered, because Katan has great potential for development. She knows the guy doesn't know her well enough to trust her with the city now, and she also knows he didn't want to marry her, so she won't ask him to trust her right away or to trust Katan. But let him not suspect her without reason, just because she is from the Cardinal family. When the young man replied that he understood everything perfectly, the girl began to hint that it was already late and it was time for her to rest. Therefore, the young man said that he would go and read all of this carefully a little later, and she could go to bed. When he left, Rita noticed that there was a rose on the table, a very rare flower that can be seen on cool days. Where could His Highness find it? Perhaps he went and picked it from the garden himself. At the sight of the Archduke, the butler exclaimed in surprise, asking why he had already returned back. He noted to himself that there were no signs of intimacy. Another young man asked if today wasn't the first wedding night, or if his wife had kicked him out. The man was indignant that he had asked him not to open his mouth in front of the Archduke, but the guy continued to be indignant that she dared to drive him away, and Joseph told them both to. Then he began to remember how the priestess told His Highness that he must punish the crown by sending him to war against the Western alliances. They will be able to completely suppress his aura if they allow him to serve on the continent. Can the Angelos dynasty, which continued to rule with holy power from generation to generation, allow itself to be tarnished? George said that even the Empress was born a saint. How could Joseph be a demon hunter? The woman noted that he was asking a stupid question. The former Empress behaved inappropriately. Let Prince Carlo also undergo a purification ritual just in case. Joseph thought to himself that this boy was only 6 years old. There was no way he could survive on the battlefield. After which he stated that there was no need to speak ill of their mother's honor. No matter what, he was still the legitimate child of the emperor. Therefore, blinded by power, he sold his soul to the devil. The saint was horrified and said that it seemed that the sins of the crown prince could not be washed away by the battlefield and serving the empire. His Highness asked what to do then. The girl answered that she should overthrow him. The man replied that, okay, he was sending him to the battlefield to be cleansed of his sins. After some time, the guy was surprised that the child had survived this rotation. Some had already run away long ago. Another explained that there were rumors that he was so blinded by power that he sold his soul to the devil. As a result, the emperor's son, who had hoped that his head would fall naturally at the hands of the enemy, survived, which plunged everyone into complete horror. The man didn't understand how he could still be alive, because he heard that a horde of monsters had appeared in the northwestern part. After some time, the young man thought that he knew that the emperor would forgive him if he served him. It was better to die for everyone. Suddenly, a girl appeared and asked if he was lost and why he was sitting here alone. The boy pulled his hand back and said that he wanted to die. Rita was confused and asked, "What do you mean, right now?" The little girl objected that maybe it would be better to play with her. "Why die?" the guy answered. "Because he is a demon hunter." The little girl asked what. Joseph didn't understand what was happening. Couldn't she feel his aura? After which he added that he was a dangerous man and demonstrated how a rose withered in his hands. The girl noted that this was all very interesting, of course, but what did it have to do with the fact that he would not? The boy explained that his aura was corrupted. Didn't she know what a demon hunter was? Cardinale muttered that it meant he couldn't play hide-and-seek or something. The young man asked if it didn't scare her. The flower said right before her eyes in his hands. The girl asked what was wrong with that. Because she could do the same. The plant could wither from just a few drops of poison. After which, she began to drip liquid from the bottle onto the rose, which immediately wilted. Joseph stated that she was an alchemist. Let her not brag about her abilities to anyone. Rita asked in surprise why. The young man explained that people in this empire might hate her for having such power. The little girl replied that she also hated such people. They could do as they saw fit, because she was planning to leave L'Especian anyway. In any case, let her not die today, because no one else in this mansion talks to her. Joseph noted to himself that he could play with her for a day or so, because she looked so lonely. Meanwhile, our heroine asked why the color was brown. The guy explained that he had been to Senston Place 3 times, and this soil predominates there. The northern land of Katan is called cursed, has a dry soil structure that is easily destroyed, so there is very little land that can be used for cultivation compared to the vast territory. After which she said that it was brown, and she knew that the soil on the Sancton Plains was gray. The young man shrugged and replied that there might be some southern soil here. Rita noted to herself that Manuel had initially felt hostility towards her, but had never shown it so openly. So she said he could go and decided to check the soil herself. The young man decided to ask why she needed the soil from Senston Place at all. The girl replied that she wanted to use it as an ingredient in alchemy. She noted to herself that this is all for the prosperity of Katan, so she can speak honestly. Manuel stated that Sister Sabrine was probably telling the truth. The Katan territory was land that was difficult to cultivate even before the curse. Now Madame intends to completely destroy all agriculture with the help of alchemy. His Highness the Archduke already knows about everything, so let him not think of doing anything stupid. Our heroine began to get angry to herself that she had taken this ungrateful girl with her, and she, instead of doing her work, was spreading false rumors about her. But even in the Count's family, she lived a comfortable life, became friends with her father, and therefore did not realize her position. If Sabrine hadn't become George's mistress, she would have definitely become her father's mistress. In addition, in society, Rita is known as the only daughter of the Count, But the reality is that in the mansion, everyone perceives her only as an illegitimate daughter, but now she is an archduchess. If they know who is higher and who is lower in status, then she doesn't have to mince words to say everything directly. After some time, she was told that they had arrived at Canston Place. Our heroine noted to herself that the soil was definitely gray. Then she told Sabrine to start digging the earth. The girl objected that she could tell Rona to do this. She got these clothes from Prince George, so it would be unpleasant if they got dirty. He also said that he would soon take her to the imperial palace. Rita noted to herself that the maid didn't even try to hide it after she got married. The assistant insisted that she was serious, and could even show a letter stating that he wanted to make her his wife. Cardinale noted to herself that she was acting as if she had a higher status, and must have thought that she had won the— That's why she said that George is not an emperor yet, even if she is the second prince's mistress. Right now she is her servant. If she has to say it twice, she will go to the duchy on foot. After a while, the girl noted that wherever they went, the land was barren, almost like— Rona asked if she wanted to look around a little longer. Our heroine replied that they would come back as soon as Sabrine arrived. Suddenly, an assistant appeared, screaming for someone to help her, because there was a monster in that direction. Then our heroine saw that a huge monster appeared that looked like a wolf. While the maid hid behind her back, Rita thought that everything was fine. It was time for the Guardian of Katan to appear here, after which she screamed for her maids to run away as quickly as possible, but she would stay here. Sabrine was immediately blown away by the wind, and Rona remained standing in place, just quietly sobbing. After which, I noted to myself that this was an unexpected turn of events. The wolf-like monster simply fell in mid-air. Suddenly, someone grabbed the creature and simply threw it aside. But because of the dust around, she couldn't figure out who it was. It turned out to be a young man who approached her and asked if everything was okay. Our heroine was confused when she saw him, but replied that she was not hurt. One of the knights carried Sabrine in his arms and said that she had cowardly run away and left her mistress alone, even though she herself had told her that she needed to get away. Rita noted to herself that the maid must have fainted at the sight of the land guardians. One of them added that it was a little surprising that the lady tried to protect her assistants. If she doesn't believe the rumors, she could turn out to be a completely different person. Cardinale noted to herself that the number of people who believe the rumors will gradually decrease. Joseph said that it was already dark, so he was worried that his wife would not return, which brought her to Canston Place in the first place. The girl replied that she wanted to take some soil samples because she felt they needed to be— Suddenly, Manuel's voice was heard, exclaiming that they should open their eyes. This witch was trying to curse this— The young man hissed at him to watch his language, but he objected that it was too bad that no one believed him. Our heroine immediately told him that she is not a witch, therefore she does not know how to cast a curse. Let him believe her. The Archduke took her hand and said that he had never thought of his wife as a witch, so he should not worry. As for why she needs this land, she will tell when they return to the estate. Then he gave the order to deal with this monster, our heroine exclaimed. He's not going to kill him, The girl replied that this monster was a female and she was pregnant, and she noted to herself that there were monsters that could be tamed with the help of divine beasts. The only way is to raise them from a young age when they have not yet been exposed to magic. Saint Eveline, who married George, used this method to tame the black dragon. If only she could tame the black dragon, the king of monsters, it might help protect Katan. She doesn't have the same holy power as the girl, but the wolf-like monster would be a good practice partner. The mother seems to have exhausted her strength, but she can save her child. However, how a person without holy power would be able to wield a divine beast would only be known in the distant future. Could she just tell him? Before she could really explain anything, the young man replied that everything was fine and that he would not kill her. But he can't leave the monster in the middle of the road, so they need to come up with something. Our heroine replied that there was no need to worry about it, after which she activated her magic, and she added that she would take care of moving this monster into the forest. And she noted to herself that it would be nice to organize some kind of cave for her. Sometime later, in the Archduke's library, our heroine noted that the soil was quite moist, so she hoped that there would not be any big problems with— Then a young man appeared and said that she had been looking for him. The girl replied that she had, because she wanted to show him. The young man noted to himself that the library had turned into his wife's laboratory. Rita showed him the flask and asked if he knew where the soil came from. When asked if it was red soil, Cardinale replied that no, it was dirt from the Canston Plains, which meant that the alchemical experiment she had conducted, after which she added that she plans to change the composition of the Katan soil to red soil, whether he can show the results of the study to academics. Although there are no alchemists in this city, there are many scientists who study the plants and demonic beasts that only exist in the north. In the future, a magical tower will be built in Katan, and it will be able to borrow their power. Then she added that, of course, she was using her inheritance, not the city budget, until she could prove that the soil was suitable for planting. And the young man asked why she was doing this at all. Rita responded, because she promised to do everything possible while she was the great archduchess. The guy asked her to clarify what she meant when she said that, for now, she would be the Grand Arch. The girl noted to herself that she was sure that she had written this in the contract, but why, judging by the expression on his face, did it seem that he knew nothing about it? After which she demonstrated one point, which said that they would divorce when the time came. So if one day she leaves Spession, then please don't look for her. She noted to herself that she only wanted one thing. If everything went well and she and her daughter were able to leave Katan, she would try to provide her child with a happy life without anyone's interference. The young man asked if she meant that one day his wife would simply disappear. Our heroine did not understand why the Archduke suddenly became so angry, after which she muttered that she didn't think he would perceive this as a flaw in the contract. She noted to herself that when she left, the young man would be happy with his beloved woman. When there was no response from the young man, the girl thought that he was reacting to everything somehow strangely. After some time, the butler introduced her to the farmers she had asked about. Rita couldn't believe her eyes that only 3 farmers had borrowed the territory of His Majesty Prince Katan. The man whispered in her ear that the people were stubborn and had a strong dislike for the nobles, so they would not listen to the Archduke. But our heroine noted to herself that, no, perhaps it was because many people hated. The history of the civil war between the South and the North has deep roots. Among them, the genus Cardinale, called the Rose of the South, had a very bad reputation, especially in the northern regions, because he seized the Kara Plain, the only granary of Katan, and provided false documents proving that the plain had been stolen. He also hired poor residents for meager wages, using them as workers in dangerous places. After which she smiled sweetly and thanked them for responding to her invitation. When the girl began asking if they had all checked the land she had given through Dante, one of them asked if she believed the red land was Katan land. Our heroine noted to herself that this man is Mr. Umberto. She knows a lot about him. Before she returned to the past, she learned that the man's son had died because of the Cardinal family. The man shouted at her that she was a witch and that she should return his child. Umberto was one of those used in Cardinale's nefarious dealings, so when he said, "Give me back my son," she replied that if he was so desperate to get him back, he should give her the money he got from her father. Now our heroine was very ashamed of how coldly she said it. The man stood up and said that he didn't know what she was planning, but he came to say that he wouldn't forgive her. The guy supported him and added that he agreed, after which they left, saying that they should never be called again for such trifles. Our heroine said that a small piece of soil would be enough. Does the farmer want to try? The girl asked if she could forgive her father for behaving so stupidly. Rita noted that she was Umberto's daughter, but the girl immediately asked if she knew where the children hired by the count were sent. The father was worried because there was no news from his brother. Our heroine noted to herself that around this time there was a major accident. It seems that it happened in Cirta, although not for this reason, but she was still going to go there, because the black dragon's egg is buried. After which she replied that, okay, she would definitely find out where her brother worked. When she said that she wanted to go to the mines, the guy reminded her that monsters usually appear there. The girl said that she knew. The young man added that he wanted to say that this was not the place to go. Rita replied that she was not doing anything that could negatively affect him, so he shouldn't worry. The young man frowned and replied that he wasn't actually worried about himself. Our heroine hasn't understood him at all lately. Not long ago, Sabrine volunteered to become Joseph's maid. She tried to seduce him by wearing lingerie while cleaning, but rumor has it that she was immediately kicked out. She thought it was Sabrine, but what surprised her was that he, such a polite person, burst into her room. The young man immediately told her that he hoped she wouldn't misunderstand everything. He rarely gets flustered, but he thought the girl might have misunderstood something. She doesn't often show her feelings, and she's also not easy to read. But Rita has been puzzled since When the guy went with her to the mines, the girl asked why. Joseph answered that he was informed that monsters had appeared there. Since they were going to the same place, he decided it would be more convenient to go together, so let him forgive her if he caused her inconvenience. Our heroine objected that, in fact, there was no such urgent need for him to go. The young man replied that usually it was not necessary. However, the report said that new types of monsters had appeared, and he was obliged to check it personally. They were immediately met on site by Meilen, who is the manager of the mine, which is owned by Cardinale, and said that if he had known they were coming, he would. The girl replied that everything was fine, and he didn't have to do it. The man asked what brought them here in the first place. Joseph replied that he heard that monsters had appeared here, so he came to solve this problem. The mine manager immediately ordered someone to take them to that place. The Archduke tried to tell her that it was dangerous there, and that she shouldn't go there, but the girl didn't listen to him and said that she needed to go quick. The assigned escort asked where to take them. The guy said to where the monster was first found. When they had gone a little deeper, the boy said that now they would need lamps. But then he looked at the young man, whose eyes were shining, and froze in surprise, after which he stated that he did not think that there would be any difficulties. He did not expect to see what he had only heard about in gossip. Could the Archduke really see even in the dark? Our heroine noted to herself that it was normal to be surprised by this, because she was also seeing Joseph's eyes for the first. Unlike the abilities of paladins, the power of demon hunters is looked down upon. The young man asked if perhaps something was wrong, but the girl replied that no, they were beautiful. Suddenly, their conversation was interrupted by a shrill scream that came from somewhere in the depths of the mine. A few days before the visit to the Sirta mine, Rona was thinking about how Madame had been so busy lately. When the baby monster from Constantine was brought in, it was called Bibi. The lady is independently involved in his training and education. The people were surprised when the monster was brought here, and there would be chaos if it turned out that it was being trained, right? After which she said that she brought what she asked for. Our heroine said that she played with him, and he fell asleep when she walked away. The baby monster looks very much like a child. The maid noted to herself that she usually remembered someone when she was taking care of Bibi, and her attention was drawn to the lonely expression on her mistress's face. But the assistant is still glad that she looks happier than before. Meanwhile, it turned out that some kind of strange earthquake had occurred, and the guy asked if everything was okay. The girl replied that yes. Fortunately, she immediately moved away. Perhaps the mine had collapsed, but the young man objected that it. Rita wondered who needed this, and then asked if everything was okay with the servant Maylene. The young man replied that he heard breathing behind the wall, so he shouldn't worry too much. I noted to myself that she was so soft-hearted. Even in such a situation, she thought about others. Nothing had changed since she helped him, not knowing who he was. The little girl said that the deposed crown prince of Angelos was also a demon hunter, just like him. She thinks that's why he was banished. She heard that the guy recently went south, but she didn't see his face. The young man asked if she was afraid of the prince. The girl asked why she should be afraid of him. He replied that they say he is a demon. Rita was indignant that he really believed such stupid rumors. The young man did not die on the battlefield. What was wrong with being strong? The baby doesn't believe people who speak badly of someone, and he's not a demon, so let him not die. After which she handed him some paper and told him to go to Otabelli. In this country, demon hunters can live a normal life. Joseph revived that she needed it more, but the girl replied that in any case she could not go there because her father would not allow it. But one day she would definitely leave L'Especian. When the time comes, let the young man help her become free. But the guy couldn't get to Otabelli then, and couldn't help her, although he can't say that he's ready to repay the favor now. But he will try. When our heroine tried to get up, she involuntarily screamed. The guy stated that she had injured her leg, but she replied that everything was fine. While she was thinking to herself that she must have sprained her leg, the young man took off his shirt and began to bandage it. The girl noted to herself that he is a very emotional person and does not want to distance herself from him. That's why she said that even though they have a marriage arranged by their families, even if he falls in love with someone else, She wants to live with him peacefully, as friends. When the guy for some reason started getting angry again, Rita noted to herself that he was really puzzled by the fact that she found out about his secret lover. Then she decided to change the subject and said that they needed to find a way to get out. If they used his sword, the ceiling would collapse. After which an idea came to her mind. But suddenly, Maylene appeared, asking who Rita Cardinale was waiting for here, and behind him was a black dragon. After that, the guy tied her up and ordered the otherworldly creature to destroy the ceiling. Our heroine did not understand how he managed to learn to control the black dragon. Maybe he is a tamer. The tamer uses his inner strength to subjugate and control monsters, just like demon hunters and alchemists. They use the dark aura, an ability that is not often found in the Empire and is supported by holy power. But if this man really was a tamer, then using his powers on him, Genevieve definitely wouldn't have experienced such pain. What did he do, after all? The man shouted, "Does she know how much he owes for managing the mine?" Because of Roscoe, monster-finding tools became control tools. Rita noted to herself that this was called a remote control ball. If you use all these expensive things, their power will run out, similar to how the black dragon was caught. Malin continued that he lost all his profits because the minerals ran out and the Chimera experiment failed. But now he knows why the experiment failed. Not enough money, not enough transport. But Roscoe ignored all his requests for resources. Our heroine noted that uniting monsters was initially impossible, after which she said that if her father continued to support him, how would he end Chimera? The man replied that it was very easy. He would simply start using people as material. The young man managed to find excellent children to unite with the black dragon. Our heroine hissed that a man like him would be better off dying right here. The guy was indignant. Is this the right time to say something like that? It seems like she doesn't know how cute his chimera is, so she'll show it off. After this, some strange otherworldly creatures began to appear from the darkness. But the Archduke appeared in time, repelled the attack, and said that he heard the noise, after which the young man entered into a fight with them and told her to close her eyes. The girl couldn't believe how dirty the head of the Order of Saints was. This was a chance to let everyone know about it. Therefore, I realized that, first of all, it was necessary to preserve the evidence that existed. Her father had made many enemies. He was the head of the Holy Society, and as a man of power, he could influence the aristocracy thanks to his close relationship with the Pope. Naturally, Cardinale sponsored George's paladins. If everyone found out that such a person was conducting experiments on a living being, then his ideal image would collapse in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, the young man who had neutralized Maylin appeared and told Rita that they had not seen each other for a long time. After kissing her hand, the head of the Spina Assassin Guild, Oscar, added that he missed her very much. The girl got married and didn't even say a word to him. She was beautiful as always. Rita asked him not to come close. Suddenly, Joseph materialized in front of our heroine, knocked the sword out of his hands, and told him to move back a little. The guy was outraged that he didn't even have time to introduce himself, but was already poking a sword at the man. The Archduke objected that he was a hooligan who was threatening a weak woman. The young man said that he was a little rude, because behind his back there was normal vulgarity. Come to think of it, there are rumors that Archduke Katan is the deposed crown prince who was supposed to be dead. Our heroine stated that he should not use her father's name to deal with her husband. She noted to herself that, if the past had not changed, Oscar was still her father's hunting dog. The young man replied that, okay, if she asked so, then he would take them to the Count. The young man asked in surprise if she really wanted to talk to her father. Rita didn't understand why he had such an expression on his face. From the outside, it seemed as if she was a spoiled daddy's girl. She doesn't really want to talk to her dad, but now is not the time to show her hostility towards him. Upon seeing her, Roscoe immediately shouted, "Why is she thoughtlessly interfering in the family business?" The girl noted that he is still the same. She did not expect that he knows about such remote places. He must be here more often than she. Malin got rid of Para, but she must not forget about the goal, as she must seduce the deposed crown prince to learn about Carlo's weaknesses, or she likes him. The girl replied that it was impossible. He knew perfectly well how much she loved Prince George, so there was no need to worry, but she noted to herself that people like George and her father, who possessed powerful holy power, could not die easily. how to get rid of these people in the most painful way, after which she asked why not convince him to buy this mine. Father asked again if she wanted to sell this useless mine to Archduke Katan, although it would make him happy. But would he agree? Our heroine replied that there was no need to worry about this. She would talk to him. The man haughtily stated that she was not completely useless after all. Rita immediately remembered that he always addressed her as a useless parasite or a living person, such phrases he used instead of addressing her by name. Once upon a time, she couldn't wait to be useful to her father. It was so stupid. After some time, our heroine found the black dragon and noted that she ran away to protect the egg. Unfortunately, Genevieve did not stay in this state for long. She was worried about the baby, so she could not sleep peacefully, after which she asked if she was worried. She would take good care of her child, so she shouldn't worry. After this, the dragoness sighed with relief and simply disappeared right before our eyes. Rita took the egg in her hands and said that she would do her best because she promised her mother. After some time, sitting in the carriage, the girl said that Malin had children locked in the barn and that they needed to be brought here safely. She noted to herself that in the place where a large monster, like a black dragon, dies, a magic stone of special purity appears. For Katan, who needs capital, this is a good opportunity to make a fortune on such magic. In her past life, the saint raised Genevieve's cub and tamed him, and then everyone learned of the value of the Sirta mine. But now no one knows about this, so will the young man believe her? She can't stand to watch the Cardinal take over the mine, so she said she had something to say. Can Katan buy this mine? She already knows how to use it to make a lot of money. Only she has this information. There is a network of informants that are known only to alchemists. She has an interesting idea. It will help Katan. But if he does not believe her, then he will not insist. When the young man suddenly replied that he knew, the girl asked him if he would take her word for it and buy that pile of stones. The young man answered the question with a question. Isn't that what she wants? Rita said that if someone asks him to start a joint business, or says that it will be a good investment, or says nice things, then he should run. The young man objected that he cannot jump out of a moving, but the girl added that besides her, he could trust her, because she sincerely hoped for the prosperity of Katan. Joseph replied that he knew this. After some time, our heroine stated that this meant he was Umberto's son. Rona reported that Ollie was hiding in a safe place, so she was able to find him easily. The baby said that he knew the roads in the mine well and wanted to tell Madame everything, but the road was blocked. The girl noted to herself what a smart child he was, but said out loud that, fortunately, he was not hurt, so she needed to go quickly since his father was waiting for him. The boy muttered that he had not yet received his salary from the count, so if he returned home, he would be an extra mouth to feed. The girl said that there was no need to worry about it. The Archduke's family would compensate for everything, after which she told the maid to take him to Dante to be trained as an official, and also to find a job that suits the abilities of the other children. She noted to herself that since she needed to hire children to work, she needed to raise the price of magic stones for sale a little. When son and father were reunited, Rita thought that she had looked at her daughter in exactly the same way. After Celine approached her to thank her, Cardinale replied that she would rather show her gratitude by convincing farmers to use red soil. The girl replied that, to be honest, she had already used it, although her field was not as large as her father's. When asked if there was a result, the farmer exclaimed that it was simply a miracle. Madame had created excellent land. Not only wheat in the center, but also rice in the south sprouted on this land. And rice is very difficult to grow, so only aristocrats in the south eat it. It's just incredible. Rita noted to herself that she was in such a strange state. If you think about it, she had never used alchemy for the benefit of others before. Suddenly, a young man ran up to her, grabbed her by the face, and asked what was wrong with her. Our heroine replied that she was very happy because someone said that her red earth was. Now she wants to officially divide the artificial red soil among the farmers of Katan. If they show the effectiveness of the red soil, then people will start using it. The boy replied that, wonderful, he would tell Dante that the effectiveness of the red earth she had created had been proven. After some time, the butler asked how many people they would select to develop Madame's red land. The guy thought that he had been married to her for 2 months, but for the first time he saw such a sincere smile, after which he came to the conclusion that he was a bad husband. The man asked what he was thinking about. The boy asked what month it was. The butler said it was the first day of August. Joseph noted that the weather was still cold. So please let him monitor the temperature in the Dante replied that he was sure that the lady's room was warm enough. Did he want it to be warmer? Katan replied that yes. Let him adjust the temperature so that she would be warm, like in summer. In fact, he was worried that she was having a hard time living in Katan. These lands were too cold for a girl who grew up in the south. As a child, she also did not. After a while, the girl asked, "What do you mean? People say they won't use red soil." Umberto said that Celine had already started cultivating the land, but Ricky was against it because rumors had started to spread, and it seemed that people suspected that there was something hidden in the red soil. And in general, is it true that she bought the collapsed mine? Whatever the reason for the purchase, he believes her? Only the girl interrupted him and asked how he found out about it. The man replied that he had heard that she had spent a large sum of money for this territory. A young official who was often in the city had told him about it. Our heroine immediately understood who they were talking about. It was none other than Manuel. This guy is the butler's nephew. Due to the sad circumstances that deprived him of his parents, he became a very important relative to him. He is also important to the Archduke because he has taken care of him since childhood. Perhaps because Joseph thinks how lonely Prince Carlo is in the cold imperial palace. He loved him like a brother. However, after Dante, Manuel will take the place of the manager of the estate of the Archduke's family. He was too arrogant and careless. At this time, the boy was shouting in the office that he was being deceived. It was obvious that the madam wanted to sell the Katan mine to compensate for the damage. The young man replied that even if that were the case, it was okay. If it helped his wife, that would be enough for him. Suddenly, our heroine appeared in the office and asked what his words. Then she noted that his heart was beating fast. It seemed like he was under a lot of stress, wasn't he? Was he afraid that she would lie to him? The young man muttered, "I mean, that's absolutely not true, Mab." The girl thought to herself that if he was saying this to help, then there was no need. In general, she was looking for Manuel and did not expect to hear this, after which she turned to the boy and said that she had a reason for acquiring this mine. Let him wait until the merchants begin mining magic stones. Then he will believe. The boy shouted that it was impossible, that only gold could be found in the mines. What kind of magic stones were there? Rita stated that whether he believed her or not was not important to her. It was very important to her that the Archduke believed in her. Joseph said he acquired the mines to help her. Please let her hold off on helping her later. If she is too soft, it will become a weakness. After which she decided that it would be better to train the cunning Manuel in a worthy manner so that he would be close to the Archduke and help him. So she said that she wanted to tell him something and that he should follow her. For a guy who trained as a knight, her cane won't hurt. He needs to be tougher to be effective. After which she hit the boy on the palm with this thing. The young man exclaimed why she was hitting him, since he was only worried that the Archduke would suffer. The girl replied that she had not hit him because he had spoken to him about it, and because he spread rumors that she had forced Joseph to buy the mine. The boy asked in surprise how she had found out about it. Rita replied that the family servants do not spread rumors about the head of the family. Does he not know these basics for becoming a servant? If someone makes a mistake, he should be punished. He knows that, doesn't he? After a few more blows to the legs, the boy exclaimed that he was wrong and deliberately told him. The girl replied that she knew that he was worried about him because the Archduke was like family to him. But even if he said it would harm her, Manuel did not dare tell others about the situation in his lordship's family. Does he know why? Because Katan is barren and hard to live here. However, many residents believe in the reliability of the Archduke, which is why they began to live here. Let the boy not foolishly deprive people of confidence in him. This is very important. She noted to herself that she roughly understood what Manuel was gossiping about. He probably let it slip that she was a witch from the Cardinal family, who was taking advantage of the Archduke's kindness for her own benefit. Of course, people are worried about Joseph, but in the long run, he will feel bad about these rumors. The boy couldn't have thought of this since she didn't think she would have to compete with George. She thought everything was fine. But this terrible, predetermined relationship was both in the past and now. After which she asked if it was Sabrine. The boy at first did not understand why she mentioned her. Then he began to remember how he asked the maid why she wasn't working. The girl replied that she wasn't there to do errands, after which she asked him if he had heard that the Archduke had bought the Sir de Mine, which surprised the boy greatly. The maid added that it originally belonged to the Cardinal family and was afraid that Madame had deceived his lordship. The boy objected that her previous words were not confirmed, because Celine said that the effect of the red earth that Madame created was simply magnificent. Sabrine stated that she heard that the whole mine had collapsed. If it weren't for Madame, Joseph would have no reason to buy the ruined mine. Right? People from the Cardinal family never do anything to harm themselves. The girl knows the mistress well, because she served her for a long time. Rita never helped anyone of her own free will. The same applies to the mine and the artificial red earth. He doesn't know what Madame is up to. But isn't it too suspicious to blindly follow her? The boy thought that if you look at it like that, it seems like the truth. It is necessary to talk to Ricky. He is one of the most influential among the youth. So if he says this, then people will no longer believe the lady. The maid exclaimed that this was just a great idea. If he did it, then nothing would happen. The thoughts were interrupted by the voice of our heroine, who asked again whether Sabrine had made him think so. The boy exclaimed that no, but Rita already understood that it was still her. She allowed her to stay around to learn about George's plans, but she didn't expect the girl to be planning something like this. It would be better for her to return to the Cardinal house. After a while, the girl thought that Sabrine had looked down on her from an early age, since she was a servant whom her father loved, because in the empire of Vespasian, his power is limitless. Although she doesn't quite understand what's going on, she doesn't know where to get the goddess crown. If she finds out where it is, she won't have to keep a maid by her side. The crown of the goddess is a relic that transmits the voice of Laurencia to the people. George owns it and interprets the prophecies as he wishes. This is one of the reasons why he will take the place of the. He calls himself God's chosen one to be the emperor, and this is no longer funny at all. After which she turned to Rona and told her to call Sabrine to her. The maid muttered that the girl had gone to meet Prince George. She had heard that he had just arrived at the Archduke's family estate. Our heroine didn't understand why he came so suddenly, without warning her. In any case, now was the time. Hearing the door open, the young man immediately said that he could finally see her. After she arrived in Katan, he had not heard from her whether she was okay. Rita reported that a monster had appeared outside, so Joseph came out. George objected that he had not come to see him, so everything was fine. The girl asked why he had come after all. The young man quietly said that the masking potion she had given him was already finished, after which he touched her cheek and said that he was also interested in how she was getting on with the Archduke. As Rita pulled his hand away, she thought to herself that it was simply disgusting, but out loud she replied that she was doing fine, and there was no need to worry about her, and she had the medicine that she was going to send him with her. Were there any side effects? The guy was surprised. And what? Is there something that he needs to pay attention to, or what? Rita replied that she couldn't say for sure about its side effects, so please let him be careful not to overdo it. But she noted to herself that even the smallest dose has its. If she makes a fake medicine, it will definitely arouse suspicion. Although the effect of disguise is the same, the medicine she made, when taken for a long time, causes a great loss of strength. George is usually very restless and cannot act arrogantly. If he appears again, he must just stop using the masking aid. When asked where Sabrine was, since she had heard that the girl had gone to meet the prince, the guy replied that he was afraid that her mood would be spoiled and told her to leave. When the girl asked why, the guy asked again, "Why what?" She knows about his relationship with Sabrine. Rita replied that, firstly, since she is her servant, it is natural to greet guests. Also, this can be ordered to her. The young man stated that she served her well. Our heroine replied that of course she was a smart child, so she helped her a lot, as he thinks. Why she took her with her, George replied that she was saying this so that he now wanted her as his servant. There weren't many people in the palace that he could trust. As she thinks, should he take Sabrine with him? Our heroine noted that he is testing her from the very beginning. Perhaps he wants to make her jealous. The prince continued that he needed a woman to accompany him. He was planning to visit the black market near Katan. Unlike underground auctions, this one is called a black market. It takes place at night. It is a place where many different people buy different goods. But why he needed to get to this place? Even she, his longtime assistant, does not. The young man added that he had first thought of sending her there, but did not know whether it would not be better to send Cabrini there instead of her. Our heroine smiled and replied that he could take her and do as he saw fit. When a maid appeared next to him, saying that she missed him very much, the guy thought about why she just left, leaving him alone. Before, she always looked at him with worried eyes. He does not understand why today the atmosphere has changed so much. After which he asked what her relationship was with the Archduke. The assistant replied that they were husband and wife. They, like ordinary nobles, she sees only their external relationship as husband and wife, because they do not share a bedroom. But to herself she thought, why is he even asking about this? Suddenly, the young man added that Rita had simply become more beautiful, so he thought it was because of the Grand Duke. Because southern women are like roses. Roses that begin to bloom in late spring are the most beautiful. The girl did not understand what was happening. Before, when he was with her, he never mentioned Card. The maid began to feel a little unsure, so she asked if he would take her into the palace. The young man replied that when he said he would take her with him as a servant, Rita was not against it. But he would stay in Katan for a short time to observe the situation. The maid asked him again what he had just said, meaning that he would take her to the palace as a servant. The guy replied that, yes, his mother was against marrying her. Isn't that the same as being next to him? She said that this is all she. Sabrine thought to herself that she didn't want to be a servant, and then exclaimed that their child would be illegitimate. The guy asked if she was pregnant. The girl replied that yes, and the child was his. When asked if she was sure, the girl exclaimed that now he really doubted her. The young man began to calm her down and tell her that she shouldn't worry, because he believed her and would talk to her mother. Listening to him tell her that he would take her to the palace and make her empress, Rita noted that she would hardly be able to help here, because it was useless. After some time, our heroine asked if Sabrine had finished talking to the prince. The maid noted to herself that it seemed to bother her that she had been with George for so long. After which she asked if Madame wanted to send her to the palace. Perhaps the lady is afraid that she will take away her great Archduke from her. Our heroine clarified that maybe she meant George, but she has no complaints. Just let him take him for himself. When asked what she had just said, Cardinale repeated that she was no longer interested in him. The girl said that the prince was the one who would become the next emperor, and she, the one this man loved, could become the empress. Rita calmly replied that George's power would never belong to her, no matter how beautiful she was. How much he said he loved her, his power would never belong to her, because the guy really didn't feel anything for her. Sabrine screamed that they were different, because she knew how to get love from a young man. Our heroine again calmly replied that, okay, let him receive this so-called love, but she doesn't need it at all. Suddenly, the maid shouted after her that she felt sorry for the child that Madame would one day give birth to. Although how could Madame ever get pregnant? How can a woman who is treated like a log get pregnant? When Rita turned sharply to her, the girl asked why she was looking at her like that, and Cardinale told her to repeat what she had just said. The maid began to mumble that she had not said anything like that, but suddenly she stumbled and began to fall down the stairs. After she was already downstairs, she saw the prince and began to whisper that her stomach hurt a lot. The young man immediately ran up to her and started shouting about what everyone was doing and why no one was helping her. Our heroine ordered to take Sabrine to the doctor immediately because she needs help. George angrily exclaimed what she was doing. Rita reminded that they were in front of Catan's servants, so please let him restrain his expressions. The guy grabbed her by the scruff of the neck and hissed that it looked like she had lost her mind because of jealousy. Sabrine was actually carrying his child. Our heroine asked, "And so what?" The maid herself rolled down the stairs. She doesn't know why he's so angry. The young man shouted that he treated her well because she was the count's daughter, and that was probably why she took everything for granted. Does she really think that if she acts like this, she will get away? Suddenly, Joseph, who had come to Rita's place, appeared, held out his sword to George, and hissed that he had heard that he had come to Katan as a guest. If he has something to say, then let him say it to his face. The guy clarified whether he was aware that the woman he was protecting was a member of the Cardinal family. The young man objected that if a husband should not protect his wife, then who? Then the Archduke noticed that she had a small wound on her neck. The girl immediately said that it was just a scratch, but the guy immediately started to whine that he would call a doctor right away. George was indignant that if there was a doctor here, then let him examine Sabrine first. The Archduke hissed that he was the family doctor, so his priority was examining his wife. Let her step aside. Suddenly, the prince hissed that he seemed to have forgotten why he married Rita Cardinale. Let him not forget that his brother is still in the imperial palace. It will not surprise anyone if he suddenly dies. After a while, Nicholas said that he had already applied the ointment, so she didn't need to worry about the scar. But judging by her appearance, she was overtired. It seemed like she wasn't eating or resting enough. Our heroine exclaimed that everything was fine with her. There was no need to worry. The doctor said that he, as a husband, does not know that his wife has insomnia. In Katan, it is cold at night. Therefore, it is difficult for a woman from the south to sleep sound. The young man thought about this problem and asked what he should do. Suddenly, Rita heard the doctor say that he had heard that they were sleeping in different rooms, for the sake of Madame's health, and advised them to sleep together. After some time, the girl thought about what kind of strange decision this was. But after that, Joseph didn't say a word. George showed up at the Archduke's house late at night, causing a stir by talking about a child of imperial blood and demanding compensation. The doctor said that the maid had no symptoms of pregnancy or miscarriage, so he need not worry. Sabrine had not been pregnant with George's child in the past, so Rita did not believe her from the beginning, and the girl must have been embarrassed to hear the doctor's words, so she avoided her after that. The prince was furious, until the very day he left Katan and went to the black market. He could not contain his excitement. The guy screamed, "How could she deceive him?" And Joseph, and the imperial family, all looked down on him. But as long as the goddess's crown is in his hands, he will not be able to threaten him. Of course, that's why he didn't stop talking about the relic. And it's to her advantage. If she intercepts it, then she won't have to please George anymore, because she knows everything perfectly well about all the other plans. After a while, Oscar stated in surprise that this meant that she now needed his help. Had she gone completely crazy or something? The girl asked if he would help her. Please, she really... The young man condescendingly replied that he would try to listen to her. When Rita said she needed to get one thing on the black market, the guy objected that if it was a simple auction, she could send a maid there. But Cardinal objected that she didn't have enough money for the auction. The young man asked if she meant to say that the Archduke's wife wanted to borrow money from the assassin. Rita grabbed him by the tie and said that he apparently misunderstood her. It was not a request, it was an order. She noted to herself that if she didn't get the goddess's crown at the auction, then George would follow the trail of the relic. If he finds out that Oscar, her father's right-hand man, took the relic, then he will hold a grudge against Roscoe. When the young man replied that, okay, it should be fun, the girl noted to herself that if she showed that she was clinging to George, like in the past, then he would quickly cool off. It was all a huge mistake. But then she did not. Meanwhile, Manuel burst into the Archduke's room and shouted that some man had come to see Madame. The butler was indignant that how many times had he told him not to make a fuss. What kind of manners were these? Joseph asked what kind of man he was. Dante said that he was just about to tell him that Oscar Spina had come to see Madame. The young man noted to himself that he was the Cardinal family's watchdog, wasn't he? An innocent girl like her shouldn't be friends with such an evil person. After which he replied that, of course, he would directly ask. When the boy was surprised that he really thought she would tell him the truth, the guy replied that there was no reason to hide it. Manuel muttered, "I mean, there is no reason. Maybe Madame is enjoying a secret meeting." These words made the young man a little nervous and wondered what kind of meeting was going on there. The butler responded by slapping Manuel and saying that he had told him to watch his language in the presence of the gentleman, and that Madame had just recently scolded him. He noted to himself that just the thought of it gave him a headache. Why did he spread the news about the situation within the Archduke's family? The fact that Madame used only a cage speaks volumes about her kindness. The man loves this guy like his own son, which is probably why she spared him that time. Meanwhile, our heroine was thinking about whether she had done the right thing by sending Oscar to the black market alone, although she needed to try to trust him. If a guy finds out about the true value of the crown, he will definitely want it for himself. During the war between Ottobelli and the Empire, this relic was indestructible and brought victory to La Spezia. It is a powerful means of controlling people because it conveys God's will. Ivana was originally predicted to have half of the imperial power. This was also revealed through the goddess crown. If the girl figures out how to destroy it, Then the daughter will not be burdened with such a prediction. Then she muttered out loud whether she should talk to her father about this. Suddenly, a young man's voice was heard asking what exactly to talk about. News reached him that Oscar had visited the castle. Our heroine replied that she had an assignment for him. From time to time, Spina carries out her tasks. The young man replied that if it was a simple task, then the butler or Manuel could have carried it out. Our heroine muttered that she did not want to bother his servants with her personal affairs. The guy took her hands and said that she must be forgetting that she is his wife. Next time, Rita should definitely rely on her family. Cardinal noted to herself that he was a wonderful person. His gaze was always full of justice and composure, so she replied that next time she would do the same. Anyway, she feels insecure about winning the Oscar, so she's going to the market too. Joseph asked if they'd go with Spina. The girl replied that she was a little impatient to go there. He was a nice guy, so there was no need to worry. Suddenly, the Archduke said that he would go with her, no matter how you look at it. He could not let them go alone with him. Our heroine thought that, be that as it may, she is part of the Cardinali family, so it is not appropriate for her to accompany the head of the Assassin's Guild. The young man still doesn't trust her, so this makes her a little sad. After which, she said that he should keep in mind that the item she wants to find at auction is for him with Prince Carlo. After some time, our heroine admired the beautiful view that opened onto the market. A city that never sleeps, the local atmosphere lives up to its reputation. But here, she would have to sleep with him, because there was only one room. Suddenly, Oscar's voice came from the open window, asking if she was following him. Our heroine screamed in surprise and asked what he was doing here. The young man threw her a box and said that he had found what she needed. When the girl opened it, she asked if it was the original, since the auction had not yet begun. The young man replied that she could trust him. Cardinal then immediately tried it on and said it was exactly what she needed. Oscar said he wondered why she was obsessed with beautiful things, but it suits her very well. Cardinale looks just like a queen right now, just wonderful. In general, he thought that the Archduchess did not need a crown. The girl noted to herself that he seemed to simply think that she liked, after which she put a sheet of paper in front of him and told him to write down how much money he spent on the relic. Oscar was surprised that it was really that expensive. The girl was surprised and asked if he had stolen it or something. The guy muttered that he was a fool and did not know that the crown was so valuable. Besides, she wanted him to leave a mark by taking the relic. Our heroine immediately noted that this was a drawing of a rose, symbolizing the Cardinal family. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and the Archduke asked if he could come in. Spina noted that it was somehow strange that he had to ask her permission to enter the room. When the young man entered the room, he froze in surprise at such a picture, after which he hissed that he had finished his task and could therefore return. Oscar replied that he was just about to go home, but maybe he shouldn't leave since he showed up so suddenly, while Rita didn't understand what kind of situation this was. Their relationship was worse than she had expected, so she told the young man to come back. When he left, the girl asked if the Archduke had finished, but Joseph asked to be called by his name. Our heroine doesn't want to reveal their true identities at the auction, after which she named him Joseph, adding that she always thought this name was beautiful. The guy noted to himself that he had some strange feeling. Although she simply called him by name, he had some strange sensations inside. Prince Carlo suffers from a mental illness, so he is locked in a monastery on the property of the imperial family. He couldn't accept the trauma he received in battle, so he went crazy. So she just needs to heal his leg, and the boy will be fine, so everything should be fine. After Carlo's death, a medicine was developed that could restore damaged nerves, which became known to everyone, but she learned how to create it. The young man looked at her and said that it was already late at night, time to sleep. The girl lay down, and closing her eyes, thought that this was the first time since returning to the past that they had stayed together overnight. Joseph asked if she remembered the doctor's advice. He told them to sleep together to cure her insomnia. Rita replied that she remembered, but she thought to herself that his advice was unfounded, because in the past, she had to adapt to magic. But now, after that day, she has a dream, a nightmare, in which she can do nothing, only watches helplessly as George carries away Ivona. After which she said that she was sensitive to the place where she slept, so he shouldn't pay attention to her, and she noted to herself that, even though he was her husband, she was not yet used to being with him. She doesn't know if she'll be able to sleep, but she needs to gather strength for tomorrow. After a while, the young man noted that she slept better than Joseph thought, but he could not fall asleep. Suddenly, our heroine began to tremble and began to whisper someone's name and say the words, "No, don't touch." So the Archduke realized that she was, after which the young man placed his hand on her forehead and muttered a spell. He noted to himself that he didn't think he would use the spell he used on his brother. The doctor was right when he said that she had problems with sleep, because it is difficult for newcomers to get used to Katan. His words were a reproach to him, but he could not answer, because such were his ambitions. Ignoring the objections, if she finds out that he was instrumental in this marriage, how will she react? The guy wants to be a support for her, but if one day she wants to be free, he will let go of her hand. The next day, our heroine noted that it was quite quiet around during the day. The young man wanted to go with her, but she did not want to disturb him, because he was busy with work. But he still sent Manuel with her, who said he would accompany her today. The girl didn't expect him to be sent with her, but his behavior changed after she scolded him. Maybe that's why he thinks he should treat her like a mistress. Suddenly, she heard behind her an old man asking the noble lady for help. Looking closely, Rita noted that the wrinkles on his face looked too fake. Judging by the fact that he has young hands and an old face, he used a masking potion. The man continued that his grandson is sick, but he has no money. He cannot feed him. The boy immediately said that there was no need to help that old man. Our heroine replied that she knew that he was a deceiver. Even if he is a real beggar, he is not one of their people. Their master should take care of the locals. She noted to herself that even a simple person like Manuel could understand that this was a masking potion. Of course, it wouldn't fool her. Besides, that stranger in white is emitting holy power. She must have noticed everything from the very beginning. So we need to go. Suddenly, she heard the voice of this girl, who said that the situation was terrible, and of course, she would help. And she realized that it was Eveline. When the saint was about to give away all her savings, our heroine approached her and told her that he was a swindler. He is not even a real old man. After which, she began to influence him with her magic, and immediately the face of a young guy appeared. The girl exclaimed in disappointment that it turned out he had lied to her. The young man replied that no, he was an old man, and everything he said was true. Rita thought to herself that they were really supposed to believe that he had grandchildren. Eveline replied that, well, he wouldn't have to return her money. Our heroine asked, she told her that this man was an imposter, so why does she still want to give him the money? The girl replied that it was so hard for him that he went around begging, dressed as an old man. Thank her for her help. But, in fact, Eveline is a servant of, therefore, everything that belongs to the goddess Laurentia. Now there is simply a reason to share it with the people. In fact, you can ask the Holy See for money for further education. But the papal court in Vespasian, like the imperial family, collects money from the population, the so-called tax. They think about the people, but they squeeze money out of them, swindlers who extort money. Her thoughts were interrupted by the voice of Eveline, who introduced herself and told her name. Our heroine noted to herself that she understood that she wanted to know her name, but Rita did not want to reveal her identity because it is she who, as in her past life, will become Joseph's lover. The guy told Cardinale that he has someone he loves. That day, she can still clearly see the sad expression on his face as he looked out the window. Of course, she hoped for the young man's happiness and did not intend to interfere with their love. Now a strange bitterness appeared in her mouth, and the girl exclaimed that she did not need to thank her. After all, our heroine has the opportunity to do good, thanks to her, or rather thanks to the goddess Laurentia. Oscar, who was watching all this from the roof, thought that she was crazy, or perhaps there was a trap somewhere here. And that kid looks like he's about to run away from them. What an unpleasant situation. I should have left even earlier. But suddenly, the girl looked in his direction and mentally conveyed to him that he should not interfere. While the young man was surprised that she noticed his presence, the girl showed him a bag of money. The young man was delighted when she managed to do this right in front of his nose. When Rita looked at him and smiled slightly, the assassin realized that it was just an act. A smile like this was a little. Meanwhile, Manuel reported that if they went that way, they would come out of the square. After which, he asked why that strange woman was following them at all. Suddenly, the saint was taken hostage, and the guy who was pretending to be an old man pointed his finger at our heroine and shouted that it was she who stole his bag of money. Eveline screamed that this should not be done. because the goddess Laurentia had to prevent discord between her subjects, but the man told her to shut her mouth. The girl began to whisper a spell that began to strike the intruder. One of the boys was indignant. Why didn't he say that she was a witch? The young man scratched his head and said that he told him that she does strange things. While the guys were trying to figure out the rose thorns that appeared out of nowhere, our heroine said that it was alchemy. Oscar noted that it was surprising, but she looked relaxed. Was she really ready for it? Looks like the young man will get into trouble again. But how he likes it all. When it was all over, Manuel ran towards her and shouted that he was so proud that she was his mistress, a Madame 100. No, 1,000 times. From that day on, Oscar, the leader of the largest assassins' guild in the empire, became her admirer. After some time, the girl noticed that there were so many people around. It seemed that they were handing out tickets in that direction, but the guy was thinking that he didn't know when and what would happen, but he needed to be vigilant. Last night, pointing a sword at Oscar, the guy asked him what he was doing hiding in the bedroom at night. Spina replied that, of course, he came to see Rita. He enjoys watching his wife sleep. No need to threaten him. He's not even her real husband anyway. Who doesn't know that they made a deal with Roscoe Cardinale under the pretext of marriage? Marriage is politics, love is romance. He doesn't seem to know this old saying. Joseph thought to himself that this could be his wife's lover. Oscar had created a guild and built a reputation using the Count, but there was no trace of friendliness or loyalty to Cardinale. Now that Spina had become a guild large enough to operate across the entire continent, it meant that he was no longer just Cardinale's dog. At least he's better than George, who does everything to destroy Carlo, who is 10 years younger than him, after which he replied that perhaps. But now she is his wife. The girl's voice interrupted the thoughts, saying that the auction would start soon, so it was time to go. The guy put his arm around her and said, "Yeah, better keep up with him. It's a big auction, so there'll be a lot of dangerous people there." Our heroine said that from now on, they are a couple Padaria. He is not an aristocrat, but a rich merchant. The young man immediately grabbed the number board and said that he would participate, but Rita objected that there was no need for this. She noted to herself that he was really pretending to be a husband who wanted to give a gift to his wife. Joseph continued to do things she didn't plan. In the end, he bought a ruby necklace at a very expensive price. It has a magical ability to warm the body. The girl asked if he was very cold or something, but the young man said that it was not for him. Then she remembered that she had asked Carlo to stop by on the way back. The guy then seemed a little embarrassed to her and said that his brother was probably not the kind of person she would be comfortable dealing with. Having said this, he immediately sent a message, and the girl explained that he was His Highness's younger brother, so she would like to meet him one day. The Archduke is in a pretty good mood now, but he doesn't show it, whether he misses his younger brother at all or wants to see anyone else. Eveline will also be present at the Imperial Monastery where Carlo is staying. Suddenly, the voice of the presenter was heard, who announced that something worthy of attention had arrived, something that brings eternal life. After which he demonstrated a flask of water in which there was a real mermaid. Our heroine noted to herself that he was still just a child, but the guy said that the price would start at 100,000 blois. When human trafficking was banned in the Empire, people began looking for living creatures to sell. Among them, the mermaid is the most popular. It was a race with cruel rules. Those who believe in the superstition that mermaids' tears give eternal life capture mermaids and torture. If the tears of this creature are well purified, it has the effect of slowing down aging to some extent, but never brings eternal life to people. It makes no sense for the mermaid to perpetuate a terrible life for the sake of eternal existence. Suddenly, Joseph said that 10 million blois is a sum that can be partially returned. Our heroine wondered if he was talking about the fee for managing the castle. Winter was coming soon, and there would be more money. But the young man said everything was fine, so she held up her number plate and announced that she was ready to give 10. When the mermaid was almost sold to her, someone raised his hand at the last moment and said that he was ready to give 30 million blois. This treacherous man turned out to be the Marquis de Durango. At this time, there was a reason why the number of superstitious people increased. The Holy Society, which had the same power as the imperial family, was the envy of the nobility. The heads of the Holy Society, who are members of the Holy Order, said that they do not age or get sick. This Marquis is also a member of the Holy Society, and since he decided to buy a mermaid, it means that superstitions tend to gain strength. While the girl was thinking that this figure was simply unthinkable, the young man said that she could also name Sirta as collateral. But she couldn't cause the Archduke that much trouble, so she replied that no. More materials were needed. Then she began to remember how she thought that she had much more money than she thought. It would be enough to make sleeping pills. After which she told Oscar to find her a dancer's costume. They are not rare, so he can buy them at the night market. The guy was outraged that she called him again for work. After which he grabbed her hand. Our heroine asked what happened, if he had any questions for her. Then she suddenly pulled her hand towards her. Cardinale was indignant at what he was doing. Suddenly, Joseph's voice was heard asking what was going on here. The girl immediately jumped up, while Rita was panicking about why he came in now. Because he would misunderstand everything, the guy asked if he should step aside. The young man thought about how he had almost asked if that man was her lover, even though he already knew the answer. There was a clause in the contract that stated that they should not interfere in each other's personal lives, which is probably why such conditions were necessary. Looking at the box he put on the table, the girl asked if it was the necklace he bought at the auction. It was the first time she saw an artifact jewelry, so could she take a look? Unexpectedly, the young man replied that no, she could not look. Our heroine muttered that it was a gift, so she thought it would be better if she saw it first. The Archduke was surprised that she knew it was a gift for her, and the girl asked again if she could take a look, but the guy answered again that no. Rita thought to herself that he clearly didn't want to talk about it. Apparently, she had rushed. She didn't need to panic when he walked into the room and saw that picture of Oscar. He even prepared a gift for Eveline herself. He doesn't care about her relationship with the assassin. After some time, the young man asked what kind of outfit she was wearing. Rita explained that it was for the sake of saving the mermaid. She would pretend to be a dancer and try to get closer to the Marquise. Because dancers cover their faces, showing only their eyes. She thought that would be enough to fool him. The Marquise is very famous for his riotous lifestyle. If he publicly revealed his personal one, then it means he stayed at Lord Nada's mansion. The dancer's clothes fit perfectly, and she also finished her sleeping pills, thanks to Oscar doing his job quickly. Then she asked if Joseph felt awkward. The guy replied that he didn't. But why was she so worried about this mermaid? Our heroine thought to herself that when she saw the trembling mermaid, she remembered a lot. A black dragon closing its eyes in concern for its child. Bibi crying in search of his mother after his birth. Even the child she loved more than life was kidnapped right before her eyes. The mermaid's mother, who must have been anxiously searching for her lost child, and couldn't sleep properly because she missed her son. This is what she was thinking. But there was no need to tell him about this. The young man said that he could not let his wife go alone. Rita objected that although the Marquis was a member of the Holy Society, it would be dangerous if he found out that Prince Katan had participated in the auction. Suddenly, the young man handed her something and said that he thought it might help. After some time, the girl explained to the knight that she was part of a traveling group, but was the only one who was late because she had business. When asked who was next to her, the girl replied that it was a demon hunter who could perform a sword dance. To herself, our heroine thought that she shouldn't have brought him to this place. Joseph was a polite and courteous man, which made her wonder if he would have been chivalrous if he had become human. There were men who harassed her because of her clothes, but the guy dealt with them with his bare hands the whole way, and she thought that he would quietly follow her. To be honest, he showed himself to be so different from his usual self. It's a good thing she told him to leave the sword, otherwise he might have attracted attention. The great Archduke of Katan, committing murder on foreign soil. It's scary just to think about. Once they were inside, the girl asked who was wearing the clothes of their traveling group. She was seeing both of them for the first time. Our heroine laughed and replied that she must just be tired, after which she took out a bottle with some liquid and added that she absolutely needed to sleep. When the scent from this bottle spread to her, the girl immediately fell asleep. Rita noted to herself that they had discussed this, but she had prepared herself. It's a mild sedative, so she'll wake up in an hour or two. The young man grabbed his head and quietly whispered for her to please give him the antidote. But our heroine objected that he also needed to get some sleep. The young man tried to resist it, but he failed. Rita noted that at first she did not intend to put him to sleep, but he was too noticeable. She used an alchemical formula for concealment, so it will be fine even if he is without a mask. She didn't even know that the guy was wearing masks, which were once worn by young demon hunters for so-called protection from the sun, but in reality, it suppressed their aura. Come to think of it, 20 years have passed since then. She can't remember his face. But even in the Cardinale mansion, he hid for some time to avoid surveillance from people. There was a young demon hunter. He wanted to somehow hide what was troubling him in his heart, but she remembers that in the end, his father took him away. Even she, who tried to help, was locked in the dungeon and didn't know what happened next. So I'm sure a lot happened. Then she covered her face and said in parting that she would be back soon and that he should rest peacefully for now. Entering the room, our heroine noted that this was the Marquis's room. It took some time to find it. Since Daryenko was drinking now, it was necessary to quickly save the mermaid and get out of here. She then noted that he had left the incense. It was good that she had taken the antidote beforehand. Then she heard the sound of water and found a jar containing this creature, only in the shape of a fish. As she was telling him not to worry because everything would be fine now, a voice came from behind him, stating that Danju had told him to look forward to today's performance. The man could not even imagine that they would send him such a wonderful gift. When he started to reach his hands towards her and tell her to come closer, the girl started to spray sleeping pills in his face. But suddenly, someone hit him on the head and knocked him to the ground. It turned out to be a young man who showed her to behave quietly. Our heroine realized that she had almost called him His Highness out of surprise. While she couldn't understand how he could have already come to his senses, the young man angrily asked if he hadn't told her that it could be dangerous. Rita muttered that she was very sorry. She thought she could easily deal with the Marquis and that everything would be fine. She didn't want to involve, after which she looked at the Archduke and asked if everything was okay with him, because he didn't look. It might be a side effect of the sleeping incense, but the guy said that we need to leave. The girl continued to say that she knew he was angry because she had acted on her own, but let him look at her, and Joseph told her to please move. Rita noted to herself that it was a specially created scent for sleep, but what side effects does it have? After which she looked down and wondered if this was a sword or. The young man shouted again for Rita to move away from him. The girl thought that he didn't take his sword with him. But what had just happened then? Then it finally dawned on her what it was, and she decided it was most likely due to. After which she exclaimed that it seemed the Marquis was using this strange drug. Apparently, this was its effect, and the guy again asked her not to touch him. On the way, the young man thought that she must have been offended by him, while the girl thought that he was clearly uncomfortable around her. How could a man with conservative views conceive Ivona with her? They were a couple, but even in their past life, they only slept together once. Our heroine was so drunk that she was left with only vague memory. When they arrived, the butler said that it seemed that the message had not yet reached Prince Carlo, so the boy said that he would go check and return. Let him wait for him here, please. Our heroine noted to herself that this did not look like a monastery at all, but rather like a prison. If he was locked in such a place, then most likely he was depressed. Suddenly, Oscar appeared, greeted his queen, and asked if she had. Rita noted with surprise that he had followed her without her knowledge, and asked if he hadn't returned to Cardinale. The guy asked her if she was too heartless, if she didn't need him anymore. The girl replied that no, The young man replied that even if that were the case, he still came because he wanted to see her. The girl wondered if there had ever been a time when Spina had stalked her like this, although, in fact, there was some kind of attachment, after which she began to remember how she begged him to kill George. The young man asked again if she wanted him to kill the emperor of this country, after which he stated that she had approached him too late, since she did not have what he needed now. In any case, this young man does one thing and says another, after which she told him to hide for a while. It would be no good if Prince Carlo noticed him. The young man objected that his queen did not need to work. To himself, he was thinking why he was following her at all. He thought she had broken up with George, and she had gotten married without telling him anything, so he was a little angry because he was so smug. After some time, the priest of the Rose Monastery, Raffaello, apologized for being late. The news was late. Perhaps there was an error in receiving the message. Joseph replied that everything was fine. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. The priest bowed and greeted Her Highness the Archduchess. May the grace of God be with her. The girl noted to herself that he clearly knew who she was. If Cardinale accepted his greeting, then she should have said, "Kiss the feet of God." Her father was a pious man, and she, of course, considered herself a believer too. But she replied that she had come to see Prince Carlo and ask for advice. After a while, the man led them to the bedroom door and said that these were the prince's chambers. Our heroine quietly asked what kind of person this priest was. Joseph explained that he had always taken care of Carlo in this monastery. Rita noted to herself that in an atmosphere of complete humility and decency, this calm atmosphere is exclusively for priests who serve God. But for a person who has no reason to worry, he behaves strangely. Suddenly, Eveline appeared, rushing to hug the Archduke and saying that she missed her brother very much. The guy noted that they hadn't seen the saint for a long time, but the girl asked him not to call her that, since when did he even speak to her officially? Then she noticed our heroine, so she came to her senses and asked who she was. Cardinale smiled sweetly and introduced herself, saying that her name was Rita Katan. The girl exclaimed that she seemed to have seen her somewhere before. Rita immediately remembered their first meeting when they were dealing with the swindler. But does the girl not realize that she is the wife of the Archduke? There was no wedding, but how is it possible that she did not hear about his marriage? After which she replied that she is the wife of Joseph. The saint exclaimed that she had made a mistake. It must have been unpleasant for her to see another woman hugging her husband. Let him not get the wrong idea. They are just like brother and sister. Our heroine replied that everything is fine. She noted to herself that everyone already knew that they were lovers. But Eveline did not calm down and said that Joseph's wife was like a sister to her too. Then she suddenly lost interest in our heroine and, turning to the Archduke, said that she had heard that they had arrived to see Carlo, after which she muttered that the boy was now very sensitive and avoided people. Perhaps his sister did not know this, but he was very shy. Our heroine replied that she understood everything, but noted to herself that she had not expected to meet him so soon, after which she told the Archduke to go and visit him himself. But the young man objected that he wanted his wife to go with him. Carlo is his younger brother, so he wants to introduce his wife to him. Rita was a little confused, as she had never heard Joseph say anything like that before. When they entered the room, our heroine noted that there were curtains on the windows. A place without sunlight is not good. The boy was surprised that the guys came and asked what was going on here. The young man noted that he spoke as if he shouldn't be here. He had someone to introduce his brother to. Looking at Rita, Carlo immediately said that there was no need to say that Cardinale was the sister he had in mind. Our heroine immediately greeted the little son, L'Especian. The boy objected that it was funny to hear. Wasn't George her son? When he exclaimed that he didn't want to see Cardinale's face, so he should get out of here, the girl noted to herself that she had expected such a reaction. After Joseph, who had the qualities of a demon hunter, was overthrown, the emperor, who valued lineage over kinship, stripped him of his position as the crown prince as the eldest son, after which he began to devote all his attention to his third son, Carlo, so the jealousy and bullying of George became more cruel. Unlike Joseph, who showed exceptional talent with swords from an early age, Carlo was a scholar with a natural talent for magic. He ended up getting hurt by George when he was sent to the battlefield, so it's understandable why you hate her for being close to him. The young man approached his younger brother and told him to watch his words. The boy quietly whispered what the hell this was. His brother married Cardinale without even telling him, after which he declared that if he was going to side with the girl in front of him, then he should also leave. Coming out into the corridor, our heroine did not understand what was happening. Hadn't Carlo persuaded Joseph to marry her? She thought that it was Carlo who was trying to control George by using her through her marriage to his brother. But now it seemed he was against it altogether. The young man immediately began to ask her forgiveness for Carlo's rudeness. But the girl looked at him and did not understand why he married her, after which she looked at him and said that she had one question, but did not have time to. They were interrupted by the saint, who exclaimed that today Carlo was more sensitive. Tomorrow she would try to convince him. They were planning to stay in the monastery for a few more days. She has prepared the largest and most beautiful room for them, so she is now leading them straight to the room. Our heroine thought to herself that she actually had an important conversation with Joseph, but now she could not continue this dialogue. Then she decided that she needed to deal with the others first, after which she asked if she by any chance knew where there was a sea with mermaids. The girl was surprised why she was asking about this. Rita showed her a jar with the mermaid she had saved, and said that she would like to return him to a place where he could live better. Eveline exclaimed that she knew that there was such a sea near the monastery. She often saw mermaids coming ashore there. Since she was asking, the girl would personally do everything and release him into the sea. Our heroine noted that the creature was behaving strangely, as if it was trying to avoid the saint's touch, so she said she wanted to let him go to sea right now, so they could go together and do it. The girl replied that it was okay, and added that Rita was stricter than Eveline thought. He needs to grow up and get stronger, because he is still too small to be released into the sea. Cardinal was surprised to herself that she simply wanted to help him and free him. She wasn't going to throw him out into the storm. The young man intervened and said that he would go with them, but the saint said that it was not necessary, because he wanted to go with her alone, after which she added that they needed to talk. Rita noted to herself that she had clearly said this specifically in front of Joseph. On the way, Cardinale thought about what she was going to tell her, perhaps to make her leave her man alone. The reflection was interrupted by the voice of Eveline, who said that they had arrived. This is the Emerald Sea, in which mermaids live. Our heroine admired that it was so beautiful, but the girl explained that it was because people rarely come here. Rita noted to herself that in such a calm sea, you can immediately release the mermaid. They remember each other's smell, so if the mermaid is looking for her child, she will find it right away. Suddenly, the saint asked if she really wanted to save him. Our heroine asked if she doubted it, or something. Eveline replied that she was just asking. Honestly, it would be nice if she turned out to be like they say about her. Then Joseph would return to her, because he originally belonged to her. Rita expected this, because his phrase about his love remaining in the past was always in her head, because she understood how strong their— But in this situation, these were not the right words, so she clarified whether this was all she wanted to say. She noted to herself that she knew about this, so why did she have some strange feeling? After which she added that she should return home. When our heroine released the fish into the water, he immediately transformed into a mermaid. After his mother appeared, Rita noted to herself that she had heard that adult mermaids were the size of a mountain, but this was the first time she had seen such a large mermaid. Then the creature stated that it was she who saved her child. Our heroine replied that yes. The girl muttered that even among the pathetic people, there would be someone who deserved respect, after which she glanced at the saint and added that if she were Rita, she would not get involved with her. The saint was indignant that what she had just said had actually insulted her. The mermaid ignored her words and handed Cardinale an emerald, saying that it was a reward for saving her baby, a precious stone with which she could ask for the help of the Sea King. This will only be possible once, so she should think carefully before using it. After a while, our heroine looked at the stone and thought that she hadn't even explained how to— Carlo's medicine is not working effectively. She knows a good recipe, but it is extremely difficult. So I decided that I needed to go to the market to buy the necessary ingredients. Suddenly, not far from her, she saw the crown prince, who was walking leaning on a crutch and holding onto the wall. A week had passed since she and Joseph had stayed in the monastery. During all this time, she had never seen Carlo leave his room. He was supposed to inherit the throne, but ended up locked in this place. Even the Archduke, who has more strengths than others, was overthrown. She can't understand it at all. After which, she approached the boy and said that she was glad to see him. He was frightened by the surprise, and began— The girl did not understand why he was so scared, and said that she could help him, since the crutch had flown far away. But the young man looked at her and hissed that he did not need her help. Rita muttered, "Okay," and noted to herself that she'd better get out of here as soon as possible. After which she bowed and said that she would go then. She was sorry that she had caused him trouble. The boy looked after her in bewilderment and wondered if she really had just left like that. After some time, our heroine thought about whether she should have helped him anyway. But remembering his angry words, she decided that even if she tried, it would be useless. Suddenly, Oscar's voice was heard from the side, asking where his queen was going. The girl exclaimed, "Is he following her?" But the guy replied that no, it was just a coincidence. He ended up here by— Cardinal wondered what he was doing that he was wandering around here, and the young man noted that she looked very exhausted. Perhaps because she was irritated by her husband's infidelity, Rita asked what kind of infidelity. The young man replied that he had eyes and ears everywhere, so he knew what rumors were going around. Our heroine noted that, in other words, Oscar is already aware of this, whether the mermaid warned about this particular situation. After the saint showed her the room, Joseph was also given a separate one. Within days, rumors began to spread that the two were sharing a bedroom. No matter how lenient aristocratic society was towards infidelity, as his wife she found it unpleasant to feel their gaze on her, which is why she avoided him for a whole week. Considering that she is his wife only in words, she is a little shocked by his bold decision. The young man asked if she was upset now. Perhaps she wanted to take revenge with. When the girl laughed, the guy asked why she was laughing and not answering. Suddenly, she came across a sign that said Merlin, which was the name of an ancient alchemist. So shouldn't they sell alchemical ingredients there? The young man followed her and asked her to think about it carefully, but our heroine interrupted him and said that if he was going to continue talking nonsense, then he should leave. Once inside, Rita admired such a wide range of items: dry grass, winter mountain branches, pine cones, even a lizard tail. Where there was also a book there, Alchemy of the East. It was necessary to buy it while it was still available, since it was a rarity. But the seller asked, would she really carry it all herself? When suddenly a man's hand reached for the box, our heroine decided that it was Oscar. So she said that there was a potion in there, so he should be careful. But it turned out to be a young man who said that he and his wife had not seen each other for a long time. She was not in the room, so he asked the parishioners, and they said that she had gone out to buy ingredients that were missing, so he thought he might find her. The girl noted to herself that he looked tired. He must have had so much fun that he couldn't even. Joseph asked if she was heading to Rose now. Rita replied that no, she had some other things to do, so let him give her. The young man objected that it would be hard for her, so she would carry it, but the girl said that she could do it herself. Suddenly, Katan asked if there was anything his wife was upset about. Our heroine was surprised. Did it all just appear on her face or something? After which she replied that she should do as she wanted. While she was collecting her thoughts, she ran into Oscar near the entrance, who handed her a bouquet of flowers and said that he brought a gift for his queen. The girl froze in surprise, because she thought he had left, and these flowers were gladioli, a flower without scent, which is secretive but beautiful and luxurious. In the secular society of La Spéciane, it means a secret date. Rita couldn't believe he was giving it to her in Joseph's presence, after which she took it in her hands and said, "Thank you," while Oscar was surprised to himself why she accepted the bouquet. Then he looked at the Archduke and said he hadn't noticed him, but he thought he didn't mind. After a while, Carlo asked why he had that expression on his face. Was it harder for him today than usual or what? He thinks that Raffaello was right about the damage. Upon arrival at the monastery, the brother immediately went to meet with the punitive detachment to kill the monster. He noted to himself that given this, didn't he return earlier than usual? Usually it takes about 15 days. Could it be because of that woman? Although in truth, she did not react in any way to the rumors about him and the saint. Does this mean that he is unrequitedly in love? After which, he told his brother that it would have been better to lock this feeling in his heart. Did he forget that she was a cardinale? Whatever it was, Rita was just a southern grass snake. Besides, when he fell, she didn't even look at him. She also talked about medicine to cure his leg, but he doubts the sincerity of her intention. The guy was thinking that the bell would soon ring at midnight. The 12 gladioli that Rita received meant a secret meeting at midnight, so these two would see each other soon. After which he jumped up and started walking somewhere. Carlo shouted after him where he was going at night, because his bedroom would only be ready tomorrow. Opening the door abruptly, the young man announced that he was going for a walk. Meanwhile, our heroine was thinking about the difficult situation she was in. When she saw Joseph's face, she became emotional, remembering it out loud. In theory, he shouldn't care what she was doing. But when suddenly there was a knock on the door, she was surprised who was knocking in the middle of the night. Has Oscar really come? How much longer is he going to knock? Actually, this guy is not the type to knock before. When she opened the door and saw Joseph, she wondered what he was doing there. Did something really happen in Katan? But the guy silently pushed her aside and looked around the entire bedroom, in which there was no one else. Our heroine felt awkward about being dressed like that, so she asked him to close his eyes for a moment. Rita noted that he was so embarrassed that she, on the contrary, calmed down. The girl was in such a hurry that she forgot that she was only wearing slippers, after which she said that he could open his eyes and that he should stop apologizing, because it was her fault. Then she asked him what brought him here, because he appeared so unexpectedly that she thought something had happened. The young man replied that he could not sleep because he was worried. Our heroine was surprised and asked again, was the king of the desert north worried? The young man replied that yes. It seemed he wanted to interfere in his wife's personal. When Cardinale asked in surprise what he was talking about, Monsters flew into the bedroom window. The Archduke immediately stood up for her, but the girl did not understand how they could have gotten into the temple. The saint's divine powers must protect the monastery. Did its borders collapse? After which she said that she was now using magic. Joseph replied that these monsters were hypnotized, so it wouldn't work. Please let him run into the corridor. As soon as he dealt with them, he would come out to her. Rita couldn't stand aside, so she decided that it was necessary to call the knights. It was rare for monsters to attack buildings like this. Then she looked out the window and noted that, yes, they were all moving too unnaturally, and they were all heading towards the extension. If she doesn't react to this now, the Archduke will be in danger. The guys noted that it was somehow strange that the monsters had descended on the monastery. However, it was unlikely that there would be much damage, since they were only gathering around the annex. If they were not going to attack the main building, would it be necessary for them to intervene? Our heroine didn't understand what they were even talking about, because the person needed help, after which she shouted that they had to hurry, because Prince Carlos and the Saint were inside the extension. Hearing that Eveline was there, the boys at least had some kind of reaction to it. Then the commander shouted, "What are they all standing there for? The Saint is in danger. Everyone quickly to the extent." The girl noted to herself that they were ready to protect only her, so it was necessary to immediately say that Eveline was in danger. When they burst into the room, they shouted that the monsters needed to be destroyed and asked if the Saint was okay. The girl who was clinging to Joseph replied that she was fine, because his lordship had protected her. Our heroine was stunned. She was, of course, glad that everything was fine with them, but it was somehow strange. Eveline was the only one that all these monsters seemed to avoid, so Rita began to guess what was going on here, after which she ran up to her and shouted for her to stop them immediately, because it was the Saint who was controlling them. The girl hissed that she served the goddess, so there was no way she could do that. When one of the knights was mortally wounded, the commander shouted for the Saint to run away. Rita noted that most of the knights from the temple had never fought monsters before, and at this rate there would be even more casualties. People kept dying, and she pretended not to know anything. Cardinali didn't want to do this, but there was no— if the girl doesn't want to stop, then she has no choice but to force. When our heroine pushed her towards the monsters, the knight immediately wanted to rush to her aid, but she stopped, after which she said to look. None of these monsters even think about attacking her. I noted to myself that they slowed down and waited. Eveline was definitely a tamer. It's quite surprising that the Saint has the ability to control demons, but the girl was screaming to be saved. Can't they see that this damn witch is going to kill her? It seemed that it was thanks to this ability that she tamed the black dragon in her previous life. So when Eveline shouted that Rita really was a witch, she thought that such a reaction was expected. She was the one and only Saint L'Especian, and Cardinal was an alchemist, and because of this, she received evil looks from people who called her a witch. If she claims that Rita manipulated the demons to frame her, then the girl will not be able to escape severe punishment from the Holy See, and therefore the Emperor. After which she sat down in front of her and exclaimed that the Saint was really so magnanimous, but she noted to herself that she simply could not allow this to happen. Then she added that the Saint's faith saved them. She never doubted her faith in God. Everyone saw that the monsters did not attack only Eveline. If this was not God's will, then what else could— She thought to herself that she, a saint who had stopped evil with her faith, even if she had not set her up now, there would have been those who would have treated the situation with suspicion. Therefore, the best way out at the moment was to convince the knights who believed in their faith. The boys exclaimed that, as expected, it was God's grace. They couldn't believe that they actually saw God's intervention. Rita noted to herself that she never thought that stupidity— After which she added that she believed that demons would not attack the Saint. It was all due to God's mercy. The girl replied that, yes, it was true. Her little sister must have a lot of faith, since she recognized God's will before. After some time, Joseph came up to her and asked if she was hurt. The young man was so surprised when he saw how she suddenly rushed towards the Saint. The girl was surprised, because she thought that he would go to Eveline, but he came to her, after which she replied that everything was fine with her. When the boy replied that it was a great relief, a knight approached them and asked if they by any chance knew how to get rid of monster corpses. The Archduke replied that in Katan they simply burn them. Our heroine stopped him and asked him to first give the order to gather everyone together. There is a way to purify the blood of monsters. Even in Katan, where you can often see them, they use horns, wings, and eyeballs only as a byproduct of dead demons. In fact, the most expensive of all was the blood of the devil. Because blood can be used as a raw material for magic amplifiers, she uses alchemy since she has no tools. With the help of a purifier, even an ordinary person can purify blood. Monsters can absorb mana through each other's blood. His lordship can sense mana, right? The guy stated that it was a great technology, and the girl added that she had asked Rona to install the cleaner, and she noted to herself that she had prepared it for Katan, but no longer thought. In her past life, she tried to understand how to use this purification method. She worked hard for several years. Her father made a huge profit by making various medicines from the devil's blood that she purified, while Rita was in the dark. At that time, all she needed was George's love. Now, blaming herself for mistakes, the past cannot be changed, but she can change what is now, the present, which she holds. She then announced that she was going to patent and sell the improved refiner she had developed, but she was not going to share the basis of the method or the formula. The guy replied that, naturally, this was the result of his wife working hard on this research. Our heroine added that, of course, in addition to his lordship, she would tell him everything. She said that she was going to double Katan's fortune, and this place was teeming with demons. So in the future, he would have no reason to worry about finances, and she noted to herself that it was good that Joseph could help in this way. Obviously, the guy would also be happy if Katan became a rich territory. But suddenly, the young man asked why she was going to tell him about this. If a young man's wife knows this method of purification, then he does not need to delve into it. Rita replied that then, in a situation where she was gone, he would be in a difficult position. Joseph stated that, in other words, she wanted to say that she was going to leave Katan eventually. After a while, the girl thought that she didn't understand why he said that. It seemed like he didn't want her to leave. All these rumors did not give her peace. Then the knights discussed how the saint ended up in the annex, because every time she was in the main building, maybe she was completely wrong about him and Eveline, and suddenly there was nothing between them. Although it is simply impossible, one should not forget about what she needs to do. In any case, she will have to get out of Katan to ensure a peaceful life. The next day, she came into Carlo's room. The boy was indignant. How could she burst in like that? Did she really want to say that she had completely forgotten the manners of decent behavior? That's why you can't trust Cardinale. And when she opened the curtains, he yelled at her to close them. Rita said that being in such darkness was bad for his health, but the guy climbed under the blanket and shouted that she was completely crazy. Why didn't she close the curtains right now? Sitting down on the bed, the girl asked if he was afraid of sunlight. But why? Laurencia is a goddess. She noted to herself that in any case, it was strange. Carlo had a strong enough faith to rely on the monastery in difficult times, so there was no reason to be afraid. Suddenly, the boy announced that it was because of the devil's curse, just like his brother Joseph's, that he could not use his leg. Rita asked why he got that. There is a common myth that the fate of a demon hunter is a curse. Maybe it is true, but she is not very sure about this myth. The boy exclaimed that he saw a demon. When he is in the sun, his leg hurts even more. So he paid the price. The girl objected that if it was a curse, then what did he get in return? The boy muttered in confusion that Raffaello said it. Since long ago, L'Especian relies on divine power. Other people can't recognize the abilities of demons and defeat them. But this is not a problem for priest. When the boy exclaimed that the Holy Father had helped him, because he was in so much pain that he could not even move, our heroine began to influence him with the help of alchemy and told him to calm. The crown prince shouted, "What is she even doing? Let her stop right now." When she dragged him to the window, the boy looked at the daylight and exclaimed that he shouldn't be in the sun. Our heroine objected that everything was fine and asked if anything was hurting him now. The boy did not understand what was happening, because his leg should have started to hurt even more. Rita clarified. Wasn't Raffaello's father always next to him at such? When Carlo asked in what sense, the girl explained that perhaps George had sent him. Every time the sunlight hit him, he used magic, and George is resourceful, since he has a priest on his side. Let him think for himself. If this is not so, why was he not healed? Because a priest should heal people, thanks to divine power. After which she added that from today on, she would try to cure the prince's leg. The guy exclaimed that there was no need to talk nonsense, because she would not be able to help him, He had already resigned himself to the fact that his life had come to an end. Rita noted to herself that she had not even hoped that they would thank, after which he added that it didn't matter at all whether he had 2 legs or 1, because he still wouldn't be able to beat George. So let him just leave him alone. He already wants to end this miserable life as soon as possible. Our heroine couldn't stand it and slapped him, after which she screamed, "Does he even understand what he just said? Let him think about the imperial dynasty. Did he even think about who would get it if he died? George is a prince chosen by the Holy Office. If he ascends to the throne, many people will be fired. Because he hates the Angelus dynasty, the boy should know about it. An illegitimate child of the imperial family, George feels this imperial blood in himself, and once he becomes emperor, he will overthrow the entire Angelus dynasty and create his own empire. Then his sword will plunge deep into Vespasian's heart, and then the parasite Joseph in her, and her child, whom she abandoned before he could live, will suffer the same fate, after which she asked for forgiveness for hitting him, but she does not take back her words. From this moment on, he must gather his courage. Of course, if he wants to protect. Then our heroine added that she would like to examine his leg again. Carlo asked how he could trust George's confidant, why she was doing all this at all. The girl replied that her goal was to remove him from his position, make him look like a fool, and make him suffer. The boy replied that, "Okay, then let it turn out that Raffaello is one of George's people. He gives her a week. If the medicine doesn't help within a week, then he will replace it with holy power." The girl noted to herself, "What an impudent man! Firstly, it is not poison, so it does not need to be purified with holy power." After which she replied that, "Okay, but he will have to obey her." After some time, she came to him again and said that it was time to take the medicine. The boy exclaimed, "Is it really happening again? Why does it still hurt?" The girl replied that it was normal, because his leg had begun to recover. The guy objected that this terrible potion tasted disgusting. Our heroine noted to herself that he was behaving like a child again. The medicine for Carlo must be taken at the same time to achieve success. She watched him for several days and noticed that he was one of those people who did not give up. After which she said that this was already a good result, so they would restore the leg in a week. Eveline exclaimed, "Is this medicine really going to help?" Because she sees how Carlo is suffering. In any case, she should tell Raffaello about this. Rita objected that she told him that he couldn't be trusted. The man said that the prince's illness was a curse, so how could he help now? The saint exclaimed if Carlo really thought it was worth continuing to drink this medicine. The boy replied that he thought it was the only option. When the cardinal handed the prince the medicine and told him to drink it, the maiden snatched it from her hands and said that she did not believe her. The boy does not need to continue taking this medicine. If it is not poison, then let her drink it herself. Rita noted to herself that she couldn't do anything about it because of Cardinale, but she was already fed up with being suspected every time. After which she replied that, okay, she would drink it. But suddenly, a young man appeared in the room and took the medicine from her hand. Then he opened the bottle and started drinking it himself, right in front of everyone. Eveline exclaimed, "What is he doing? He could die from it." The guy hissed that she could see that he was fine, so he hoped that she would no longer doubt his wife. The saint tried to object that she was simply worried about Brother Carlo, but the young man interrupted her and said that he would no longer tolerate disrespect from her. The girl exclaimed that, "Fine, let him do as he pleases," after which she left, slamming the door. Rita noted that she seemed to be very angry. Wouldn't he follow her? Joseph replied that she needed time to cool down, so there was no need to worry, and thanked her for wanting to help his brother. Our heroine melted from his words and thanked him for his sincere belief in her. After some time, the guy thought that he was going to give her the ruby necklace in the morning, but all he did was drink Carlo's medicine. He really wants to give it to her today. If you think about it, the young man never gave anything to anyone. He lived alone since he was overthrown, so there was not even an opportunity to give anything to anyone. When he knocked on her door and asked if he could come in, there was no answer. The guy was surprised. Because it was still early evening, she could not. Then he became afraid that this might be another monster attack, so he burst into her room. But when he found himself in her bedroom, he saw that the girl was fast asleep, fully clothed. There was an empty wine bottle lying near the sofa. He couldn't understand what had happened, whether something had upset her. Then I decided that I first needed to move her to the bed, because it wasn't very comfortable to sleep on the sofa. Suddenly, the girl woke up. She was all flushed and said that it was Joseph, her husband. The young man stated that she was drunk and confirmed that, yes, it was he, her husband, which meant that his wife was drinking. Rita replied that she simply liked it, liked that the potion turned out well, and also liked that her husband believed in her. It was very good that someone trusted her. But this is all not good for Joseph. How will he live if he worries about her? The guy did not understand what she was talking about, but she added that he cannot trust anyone, be kind to everyone. She is afraid that he might be deceived. What's the point of adding to his fortune? She thinks it will all end with him being robbed, so she can't even leave peacefully because she's worried. The young man wondered if he had ever seen her eyes so close, like the leaves of an old tree in the middle of summer. They seemed to shine from. Suddenly, the girl fell right into his arms and declared that she was going. When the guy put her on the bed, he noted to himself that he would have to give the necklace back another time. Although Rita wants to leave Katan as soon as possible, she might not be happy with even such a small gift. Knowing about her feelings, the young man wants her to stay with him a little longer. Meanwhile, the saint was throwing pillows and screaming why he didn't come and apologize, because he humiliated her in front of this woman. The young man said that it was a sham marriage, and that it made him unhappy. Perhaps it is revenge, since Joseph was originally supposed to be engaged to her, but he must be offended by the fact that she became a saint. But who would want to live their whole life in the north? Instead, she wanted to offer him to protect her all his life, as a saint. And this witch took her boyfriend away from her. The maid asked her to come to her senses, because she had good news. She learned that Joseph bought a ruby necklace. It is in the bedroom. Probably it is kept there to give to his beloved. A grand ball will take place soon. Isn't it a gift? Eveline muttered that these were her favorite stones. She wanted to look at it herself. When she looked into his room, she noted that the guy was not there. But hadn't the morning training ended yet? Then she found the necessary box and came to the conclusion that it would be okay if she looked at her gift. Looking at it, she admired how beautiful the necklace was. It was the best. Joseph loves Eveline no matter what. He can't wait to see the look on her face when Rita sees him at the ball. Anyway, it's her gift. Maybe she can get it. After some time, our heroine thought about whether this ball was really prepared by Rose, who in their right mind would organize such a celebration in a monastery. Plus, this wine is from Reju, which is hard to find in the fall. Suddenly, Raffaello approached her and said that they say that the saint specially prepared this special wine, because it is not every day that such balls are. Perhaps the Archduchess is not pleased that commoners have the opportunity to taste such wine. Rita noted to herself that he had clearly become more hostile when Carlo, who was in remission from her potion, began to avoid him. Instead, she and Joseph looked after Carlo until he got better, so the man became more aggressive, after which she replied that there was no payment, but it was strange that the royal family still supported him. After which she asked who keeps the monastery records. The man replied that he did not know. Different priests make records. Our heroine noted to herself that this was strange. It was like not keeping records in the imperial palace. Raffaello added that he thought she was too interested in the affairs of the monastery, and now he wanted to spend today's ball usefully. Cardinal noted to herself that she had not expected to be acting so suspiciously. I wonder if it was a coincidence, or that both the saint and the priest were here, causing pain to the prince. Suddenly, she heard her name, and discussions about young guys, and the fact that she had married Katan. Today, they didn't come together. Apparently, their relationship isn't very good. But Rita noted to herself that today he would come later, because he was sitting with his brother. Suddenly, Oscar's voice was heard, saying that he wanted to see the queen so much that he never regretted coming. The young man was often with her, but then he would leave to relieve tension. Being the head of the Assassin's Guild, oddly enough, he was well-versed in social etiquette, after which she said that he was just in time, because she needed to explore this monastery, let her focus on the priest. She needed to find out something. Suddenly, she noticed a scratch on his face and asked where he had managed to get hurt. The young man noted that her concerns for him were surprising, while the girl clarified what was wrong with his mood. The young man replied that everything was fine. She was just so beautiful that he was confused. Our heroine replied that it was just a dress that she bought when she went to a monastery for some unknown reason, although she didn't even know why. Rona finished sewing it, so she would be glad to hear that. The young man objected that he was not talking about the dress. The girl began to push him in the back, saying that she understood. it would be better if he brought some wine. Suddenly, the saint appeared, announced that she had arrived, and deliberately held her hand near the necklace so that Rita would pay attention to it. The girl noted to herself with disappointment that she never thought she would see this necklace in public. Eveline said that she ordered this dress especially for today. It was made just for her. Then she asked if it matched the necklace Joseph had given her. Rita understood that it was necessary to remain calm because from the very beginning, it was clear that this was all the saint's plan. Suddenly, a young man appeared and shouted Rita's name. The girl did not understand why her heart began to beat faster. She swore that she would wish him happiness in this life, and now she's jealous or something. Therefore, she grabbed Oscar by the hand, who came up to her in time, and began to walk away from the hall. Standing on the balcony, our heroine did not understand what she was doing, but she knows what it is like to be possessed by a person. The desire to possess someone is not the same as love. It is simply the desire to trap another person. When asked what happened, the girl replied that she didn't want to talk about it. The young man said that the queen's cheeks were red, and for some reason, it was bothering him today. Rita immediately began to whine about what he was doing, and that he should get. Joseph suddenly appeared and stated that there were a lot of eyes here, so he didn't think this place was suitable for a date. Our heroine replied that this was not at all what his lordship thought. Cardinal thought that she did not want to scold him for giving Eveline the necklace, but the servants of the king's palace did not stop her, although they knew that the necklace was bought by the Archduke. So today, it became clear that the one who revealed to the world that they were a couple, only in words, was Joseph, after which she declared that she was a little tired and would go already. The young man called out to her and said that he never signed the contract she gave him. But at that moment, our heroine still did not understand what these words that the guy said to her meant. Eveline then burst onto the balcony, exclaiming how he could not have come up to her to say hello. What will everyone think of her? No one has forgotten that she was the only one who was next to Carlo when he was dying. Suddenly, the young man saw the necklace on her neck and asked where she got it. The girl replied that he had prepared it for her, hadn't he? She thought that he had bought it for her. The guy replied that it had an owner. This necklace was not intended for the saint. Eveline exclaimed, I mean, is it really for Rita? Doesn't it seem to him that his affection for her is great? He himself saw how she stood here with her. The young man hissed at her to close her mouth immediately. Joseph does not want to offend the saint, because as she said, the girl helped Carlo when he suffered. But let him. So now the Archduke stood and was angry with himself, because he had really understood everything. After some time, the guy exclaimed if she saw it. The girl replied that yes, she saw how he walked with 2 legs. Carlo exclaimed that he had finally started walking, that he had finally recovered. Rita noted to herself that this was great. He had achieved success in what he had been struggling with for so long. He must be very. Should I tell Joseph about this? A month has passed since then. She has been avoiding him all this time. His thoughts were interrupted by the voice of a young man who asked if this meant that he could now take up the sword again. The cardinal replied that, yes, he could now claim the throne again, but he should remember that only he could stop George's tyranny. The boy replied that he knew, and that he had to return to the palace as soon as possible to prove to the nobles that he was alive and well. These are the same people who put forward George as the next emperor. He had an advantage because Carlo had problems with his legs. As soon as the girl thought that she was very glad that he had motivation, the young man thanked her and added that it was all thanks to her. After a while, Joseph dropped in to see her and said that he had come to thank her, although he understood that his wife didn't really want to see him. Our heroine noted to herself that, as she thought, the guy noticed that she was avoiding him, but nothing could. Every time she sees the young man's face, she cannot help but notice his beauty, after which she realized that she needed to stop staring at him, but the guy decided that she was avoiding him again. He then stated that she was still angry with him, and he apologized for his hasty remarks about the relationship between his wife and Sir Oscar. Rita replied that nothing, everything was fine. It was imprudent of her to take someone from the order with her. She noted to herself that all this time she was worried about one thing, finding a way to leave here as soon as possible. After which she said that she would soon leave the monastery, so she had a lot to do, but she noted to herself that she did not want to cause unnecessary worries and could not tell him everything. Angelos was the first to be a holy knight of the Holy See and received great help from the church. After the elimination of the tyrant Urius, a special magician. The Pope provided great help. Subsequently, he had very close ties with the Holy See, with the temple and the church. They had such good relations that La Spetienne began to be called the Holy Country. However, the waste of such a size is simply ridiculous. It is not surprising that they lead such a magnificent life for the monastery. Having not yet pumped out taxes that were supposed to go to the imperial treasury, under the pretext of managing the religious affairs of the Holy See, Oscar asked what she was going to do. The girl was indignant that he would crumple all the documents. There is a chair. Why did he sit on the table? The guy answered, because the queen continued to behave so coldly, she even, for some time, did not let him. Rita told him to stop talking nonsense and focus. She would be really angry if he behaved like he did at the ball. First of all, they needed to find evidence that Raffaello was embezzling. Oscar replied that he didn't think he could easily find someone to beat the information out of. The priest was in charge of taxes in the Rose area, but it seemed like the entire monastery was using stolen funds. It would have been better if he had simply hidden the money from everyone. Instead, he turned it all into donations and transferred it to the monastery. Cardinal noted that it looked as if he had donated private property rather than simply manipulating tax returns. She wondered why the documents contained information about the imperial bank, whether the tax was passed through the bank and laundered as a donation to the monastery. The guy added that those who squandered money with Raffaello would never open their mouths, but the girl replied that everything was fine because she knew how to solve this problem. When the young man asked if she was going to increase the volume of her work, the girl replied that, of course, it was such a— If they used the Reichsbank to launder money, then the bank also knew about Raffaello's embezzlement. Since it is the only bank in this empire, the owner is the great lord of the south. Her father, Roscoe. If all goes well, this will be the perfect chance to expose my father for all his dirty deeds. So she said that, first of all, she needed information about the manager of the smallest branch. Then she handed the young man the money and told him to be careful. She won't be able to give a large sum at once, but she can pay in cash over the course of a year. She thought to herself that if she could sell the mana stones at a high price, she would earn about 1 million. But Oscar asked if she was really giving him money today in exchange for information. After which, he gave her the envelope back and said that he was actually not helping her for the money. He thought that she had already understood that. The guy will immediately send her information about the manager. He assumed that this would happen, so he found out everything in advance. The girl asked then why he was helping her. As he could see, she was going against the will of her father. The young man leaned towards her and said that the queen was smart, so let her think about it with her pretty— Our heroine still didn't understand what he had just said. She had a lot to think about. After a while, our heroine said that she clearly remembers that she asked Rona to find a quiet place to talk with Sir Hans. So why are they in prison? The maid replied that that was why she had chosen a place from which no sound would leak. Rita noted to herself that it seemed she had completely misunderstood. The assistant mentioned that the manager was brought to the Rose Branch, but she didn't mention that he was shoved into the basement, not the reception area. When Rona asked if she needed to bring a chair for punishment, our heroine replied that this would be quite enough, but she noted to herself that in any case, she was just a very hard-working child. This man must be scared to death by now, but that's not a bad thing. When he recognized Rita Cardinale in front of him, the girl noted that he remembered her face, so he could have a little chat with Sir Baranjo. The man exclaimed, "What did he do to offend her? Doesn't she know that he is a man working for Cardinale?" Our heroine asked if Baranjo knew about the new priest Raffaello. The manager was surprised that he was really here because of this matter. If so, then she would have to let him go right now. All the bribes from Rose were for the count. When asked what bribes, the man shouted that bribes were to make him turn a blind eye to the embezzlement of taxes. Rita noted that he meant that taxes from the lowest region had been settling in her father's pocket for a long time. And she noted to herself that he was so talkative that she didn't even have to beat a confession out of him. After which she informed Rona that she was going to submit the case of embezzlement of the priest Raffaello to the imperial court. The man shouted, "What is she even talking about now? Won't this cause great harm to the count, who is her father?" The girl replied that everything is correct, so now Baranjo hissed that she was a witch. She had no evidence anyway, and he was not going to act as a witch. Our heroine showed him the sound recording artifact and added that people call her a witch for a reason. Did he really think that the girl hadn't prepared herself before bringing him to this place? Having gathered information about Raffaello's embezzlement, upon returning to Katan, she began actively searching for the best place to sell the monastones. After several days of reflection, the girl decided to turn to the second most powerful in La Speciane, after Cardinale, the Marchioness. When they met, Janaya asked why our heroine married the Archduke. Was it because of his face? After all, he is known for his handsome appearance, even among enemy soldiers. When Joseph took over the Western Army as the commander-in-chief, Rita heard that she was a soldier who commanded a platoon under him. This girl is definitely not an ordinary person. After which, our heroine asked if the reason she married the Archduke was information necessary to conclude their deal. Janaya replied that, of course, isn't it important to know who the trading partner is? Which Cardinale? The Marquise does not think that this stupid nickname reflects the truth about her. The girl noted to herself that she turned out to be a nice person, so she replied that if she was really curious, then fine. She then added that she actually married her husband after she saw his face. Hearing a cough behind her, Rita turned around abruptly and asked what Dante was doing here. The man replied that he had brought his lordship as she had ordered. Joseph appeared next and said that he had been told that she wanted to tell him something. Our heroine replied that, yes, she needed his approval to trade with Lopez. She wanted him to read the contract too, but she thought to herself that at least he wouldn't hear anything. After some time, the guy turned to the Marquise and said that it seemed there was a mistake in the contract. The price was set without taking into account the difference between Ottobelli and La Speciane. The girl noted to herself that it really was. She even smuggles goods from a country where trade is banned to increase her wealth. It seems she really wanted to make the most of it. But Rita should have studied her well before calling Joseph. The young man stated that if this was not a mistake, then he saw no point in dealing with Lopez, who did not even know the true price of the monastones. Trading with Ottobelli still comes with a lot of risk, but that doesn't mean there isn't a mountain to climb. Our heroine immediately said that she heard that she was interested in potions. She was sorry, but she did not think that these conditions suited them. The Marquise exclaimed, "Wait! There must have been some miscalculation. She would change the terms of the deal." As soon after, Janaya signed the contract, and, of course, under the terms of the new deal, time flew by, and the day of Rita didn't think the trial date would be set so early, and she wasn't the only one watching the Raffaello embezzlement case. As she thought, her father was also present in the courtroom. Could it be that he was here as a witness in the Raffaello case? He looked relaxed even in this situation. Apparently, the man assumes that he can shift all the blame onto the priest and get away with it. But she doesn't care what happens to her father, because she has prepared absolutely everything for his failure. The judge asked if the defendant knew what charge he was being brought into the dock on. Raffaello replied that he did not understand at all. He was just a priest who had dedicated decades to serving the goddess Laurentia. There may be no one at the feet of the goddess who is without sin, yet he swears that he has never committed a crime worthy of judgment. Rita noted to herself that there was already a noise among the jury, but it was good that Lord Conti had taken over the trial. At least he was a less religious man. He could not be deceived by such speeches. The judge explained that the defendant was summoned here on charges of embezzlement, theft, and bribery. They have irrefutable evidence in the form of a black ledger. If he has something to say, let. The girl was surprised that even Oscar couldn't find double-entry bookkeeping. As she thought, Rita wasn't the only one hunting for Raffaello. The priest exclaimed, "What does he mean by embezzlement? He simply invested the taxes of the Rose Monastery into the Count's company." Roscoe said there was nothing wrong with what the priest said, and that there were many ways to manage public funds. Is he guilty of sacrificing his life for the sake of the goddess, no matter how fair a judge he was? This already goes beyond all bounds. Conti cried out that it was not only a matter of public money, there was even evidence that he had bribed it with taxes that had been collected by the Rose Monastery. Hans, the manager of the local branch, has already told them everything. Count Roscoe Cardinale, too, cannot escape accusations. The Count immediately had a thought about how he dared to betray him, after which he declared that his testimony was false, aimed at. The judge objected that the data in the accounting book coincided with his testimony, and given this, it was completely unprofitable for him. He may say that they can well be considered circumstantial evidence. Our heroine noted to herself that if the trial continues in this direction, then it will be great. It is only a matter of time until Raffaello's guilt. After some time, it was announced that due to the absence of a witness on the side of the accused, the trial was considered completed. But suddenly, Eveline appeared, who declared that she would testify in favor of the priest Raffaello. Rita didn't understand why she intervened. Was she also somehow connected with the embezzlement? She has a good reputation among the people. Her testimony can completely change the course of the trial. The saint exclaimed that he was not guilty. The judge asked if she had any proof of this. Eveline replied that, of course, Mr. Raffaello was a. When the judge replied that this could not be used as evidence, the girl was indignant that he really doubted her faith. But if so, then she would take advantage of the right of pardon of His Holiness. In Vespasian, only His Holiness the Pope is given the right to forgive any crime once every 10 years. Canti exclaimed that she did not mean to say that she was going to use it for the priest who had committed the embezzlement. The girl replied that he was like a father to her and Carlo, and now, in this situation, she was ready to exercise the right. The priest exclaimed that he had told them that he was not guilty. The saint would not use her right to pardon without reason. In other words, this was proof of his innocence. He tried to falsely accuse him before people and the Lord. Let him appear before the judgment of God. Later Canti will definitely kneel and ask for forgiveness before the goddess Laurentia. The girl said that there was no need to wait, after which she approached Rita and said that she would give her a chance to confess her sins to the goddess. Our heroine noted to herself that she was already pointing a finger at her, accusing her of giving her a chance to confess. Eveline continued to broadcast that she knew that it was her sister who lied, and reported on the priest Raffaello. Let them seize her right now and hold a trial. Rita didn't expect the saint to do something like this. There are certain procedures in place, so another trial can't be held right now. Therefore, one cannot simply stand still, because one cannot allow such a far-fetched trial to continue. Suddenly, Joseph appeared in front of her, who immediately pulled out his sword, and a cry came from somewhere that it was forbidden to draw weapons in the hall. The guy said that if they wanted his wife to appear in court, they should take the appropriate measures and only later call her. After which he turned to Cardinale and said that he would take her out of here. But the left girl did not understand where she noted to herself that she didn't even tell him the trial date because she was afraid that he might side with Eveline if he found out about this situation. The guy added that he doesn't want his wife to stand trial alone. He simply won't allow that to happen. The girl replied that first of all, she was the chairperson of the court, so please let her put away the weapon. Also, let Lord Conti not forget that the trial is not yet over, so let everyone take their seats. The man said that the priest was accused of another crime that had not been disclosed, and in this case, the saint would not be able to exercise her right to pardon, namely that Raffaello had deliberately aggravated Prince Carlo's illness. He was the one who brought down the wrath of heaven by locking the prince in a small room and causing him to suffer from mental illness. The priest tried to argue that this was a lie. The young man's legs are not healed by holy water. He was disabled from the start. Our heroine noted to herself that in the end, even the emperor would hate him. The imperial family carefully hid Carlo's defect. How could he just say it in front of everyone? Canti asked whether this was evidence that the prince was disabled. The man already realized that he had said too much. There was no turning back, so he replied. The judge said that if it were then found that the prince's illness was curable, it would be an admission of his crimes, since he had not done everything possible to treat a member of the imperial family. Suddenly, a young man appeared, walking calmly on foot, and everyone was immediately ordered to show their respect. Carlo said that they had not seen Conti for a long time. He is the heir to the throne of the empire and the son of the emperor, so will he allow him to act as a witness? The judge replied that, of course, the criminal was related to the prince, so let him do as he pleased. The boy turned to Raffaello and said that he had assured him that the boy would never walk on his own 2 feet, and until the goddess Laurentia performed a miracle, he would never again go out onto the. Does he even understand what this meant for him? The heir to the throne of Vespasian. It meant that he had to renounce his rights to the throne. The priest exclaimed that it was obvious that the disease was incurable. The young man asked if he could not see with his own eyes that he was standing on his own 2 feet. Only 2 months had passed since the boy had refused his treatment. Carlo will testify. The priest told him that he has an injury to his legs, which is the result of an inherent sin. All this time he deceived him, saying that it was a curse. After being told that sunlight was bad for him, the boy was locked in his bedroom and became like a prisoner. The judge exclaimed that it was simply terrible. For heaven's sake, how could they have so cruelly outraged the prince? Everyone around started shouting, "What were the Knights of the Holy See doing? Let them immediately put the priest in prison." The man screamed for the saint to help him somehow, but she did not respond. At this time, she approached Carlo and noted that he had indeed gotten better. Her prayers must have reached the goddess, because she prayed every day for his legs to get better soon. She thinks that there was a misunderstanding regarding the priest Raffaello. The guy said that he had already trusted her once, during the years they had spent together, and now she was not the one he wanted to grieve. After which he headed towards his brother and Lady Cardinal, who did not understand why he was coming. Then he kissed her hand and thanked his daughter-in-law for everything, because he was cured only thanks to her. The girl noted to herself that he called her daughter-in-law. It couldn't be that he didn't understand what it meant to call her that in a public place, after which she muttered that Carlo had come just in time. The young man replied that he was very glad that he was able to help his daughter-in-law. Rita noted that, just look at him, and just recently he did not want to acknowledge her as Joseph's wife. So the trial ended. Not to mention the priest. It was discovered that the father is a person who commits embezzlement. Of course, he is a great aristocrat and the head of the sacred council, so he cannot be imprisoned immediately. It must have been a mistake on the part of the royalists not to take advantage of this opportunity. Only one question remains open. One day Carlo told her that he really saw the devil when he was wounded during the war and moved to the monastery. The devil appeared the night before that day, when he was disappointed to learn that holy water was also useless. Just by looking at him, it was clear that he was not an ordinary demon. He appeared for a moment, laughed at him, and disappeared. Goosebumps ran all over his body, and the boy could not move. After that, he had no choice but to believe in the curse of the devil. Our heroine noted that it was somehow strange to encounter a demon in a monastery, a place that was more protected by the holy power than anywhere else. We need to ask Joseph and Carlo about this again when they return. Suddenly, she received a backhanded blow from her father, who screamed at her for daring to stab him in the back. Rita noted to herself that despite the fact that she had returned 7 years ago, this man had not changed at all. Roscoe continued to yell how she could go over to the side of Archduke Katan. It turns out that she decided to be on the side of his enemies. The girl asked him to calm down and said that it was a pity that he thought she had betrayed him. Our heroine pretended to cure Carlo, all for the sake of her father and Prince George. Even if his legs were a little better now, he would soon become a cripple again. But she noted to herself that, naturally, this would not happen. The man exclaimed how he could believe her words. The girl answered the question with a question, how she could hand over her father and George. But if he does not believe her, then she will give all the Cardinali inheritance that she inherited and all the Katan fortune to her father. She noted to herself that the Cardinal inheritance and the Katan property that she currently possessed were like dirt under her fingernails compared to her future wealth. When the man noted that it seemed she had finally accepted her place, Rita couldn't believe that he was softening without even realizing it. After which he added that he should not forget with what kindness he raised her, an illegitimate child, as a daughter of the Cardinal family. Rita noted to herself that she had never felt like that, because no one recognized her as part of their dynasty. Then she replied that she knew she was indebted to her father, so there was no need to worry too much. She would repay him for everything. After some time, they, together with the maid, arrived in the very village where Bruno lives. After fully entering the market, the person she found through the marquis turned out to be the one who created the Neuronia potion, and she was a genius alchemist. Most likely, this girl has not yet signed a contract with the Cardinal family. When they met, Bruno stated that she would repeat once again that she was not going to sign a contract with Cardinale. Our heroine noted to herself that this was funny to hear, considering that she had already signed a contract with them in the past, and then asked Rona to wait outside for. I thought to myself that I wonder why she agreed to work with Cardinale in her past life. What made her put her seal on the contract? Then she said that apparently there was a misunderstanding. She had nothing to do with this family. The alchemist was surprised that she was the count's daughter. Rita explained that she came because she wanted to offer her a partnership. She was going to start a pharmaceutical brand and would like to hire her as her research assistant. The girl clarified whether she wanted to say that Bruno would be able to continue his research. Our heroine answered that, yes. And of course, she needs to transfer all her materials to her. The main thing for her is to have a finished product because the end goal is to realize and monopolize the market. She will give her all the income they get from the potion as a down payment, whatever she says about it. When the girl exclaimed if she meant the Neuronia potion, Rita pointed out that after all, she was the one who created it, so the price should be appropriate. But she was so happy about it that she felt a bit ashamed. The alchemist asked if this was the potion that was advertised in Madame Delacroix's brochure. Rita knew that it was the most popular newsletter in the capital, and it seemed to be a magazine with a lot of influence. The researcher gently asked why she was doing all this for her. Our heroine replied that she understood her work and the contribution made to this research, and to herself, she noted that Bruno was literally the genius of the century. The formulas and artifacts she developed and the potion's effectiveness were limitless. But the Bruno she knew in her past life was completely different, perhaps because she had fallen for her father's tricks and worked like a slave. But this time our heroine will not allow this to happen, so she said that she needs the girl. After some time, the alchemist approached her and said that she was ready to give her answer. She decided to trust. Cardinal replied that she could call her Rita, and then asked if she knew anything about time regression. When Bruno replied that she had heard many rumors, but, to tell the truth, she could not give any exact answer, Rita wondered that if even she did not know, then who drew that magic? The pharmaceutical brand created in collaboration with Bruno eventually achieved the expected success. The brutal war with the West had not only devastated the territory, but more than 1,000 knights and soldiers were wounded more severely than Carlo. But most of them could not afford even the most basic treatment. Neuronia not only connected damaged nerves, but in combination with other medicines, accelerated the healing of dead tissue. It was a real miracle for the soldiers who were wounded and retired, and eventually it was completely sold out. Genevite surprised everyone. The name of her owner, like hers, will become well known in the future. At the sight of this creature, the girl screamed that this could not possibly be a black dragon cub. Our heroine explained that several days had passed since she hatched. Bruno immediately admired how cute she was. Rita thought to herself that there was not a single alchemist in the world who would refuse to study this outstanding beast up close. The researcher then asked what the little dragon's name was, and Cardinale replied, Genevite. The drug with the same name was doing very well, and now it was possible to gradually push Cardinale off the market. The reason Roscoe was able to become an important link in the South was because three main facts pointed to it. First, the elite, which expanded its power, took advantage of the Cardinal's geographical advantage. Secondly, a bank which increased the size of the treasury by usurious payment. And finally, a mine belonging to the Count, where various minerals are extracted. On this side, she hired Bruno, so it's a matter of time before Cardinale goes bankrupt. There are still mines and banks left, but if Roscoe increases its debt, it will owe the bank, which means the mines will collapse, even if it does. The method he used to destroy those who competed with him, he probably can't imagine that he will experience the same thing. Oscar suddenly appeared and said that all she did was work, and she had a guest. The girl replied that the problem was that this guest entered everywhere, even without an invitation. Shouldn't the guy be busy? Because people might think he's settled. She noted to herself that a lot of time had passed since he came to Katan from Rose, so why didn't he come back? Oscar replied that he couldn't leave because of the queen, and she was too cruel to him. Unfortunately, he had to go. But as soon as he turned his back to her, he immediately began to miss her. Then he thought that it was really time for him to go, and when he had just crossed the threshold of the gate, he experienced a burning pain, so that he could not leave. Rita noted to herself that there was a time when he was obsessed with her, even before his return. But it was not only that. Whether it was rare jewelry or things, beauty had the same value for him. She had exactly the same interest in him. But if you look at his actions now, you might think that he likes her. Then she laughed and thought it was just funny. The guy asked why she was laughing. When our heroine replied that she had simply imagined something absurd, the young man asked her to clarify what exactly. After Cardinale replied that she was simply imagining that he liked her, the young man asked why she thought that was ridiculous. The girl is not mistaken, because this is the pure truth. Our heroine asked if this was a joke, The young man answered the question with a question. What if it was not a joke? Then what would she do? Run away or something? Rita didn't understand what she should answer to this. Maybe it was because she had returned to the past. Was her relationship with Oscar ruined? But a moment later, the young man said that it was a joke. It would be all right if he got that bill back, since she was thinking of destroying the Imperial Bank. For that, the girl noted to herself that during all this time, he had figured out all her plans, hadn't he? The guy had added that he would be back soon, so she shouldn't go anywhere. Finally, he added that he knows that, for her, now he is just a dog that follows her, so he will not cross the line. There is no need to run away anywhere. Before Oscar did his job, she too implemented her plan step by step. Roscoe, taking advantage of the fact that the Imperial Bank is the largest in the country, after issuing a huge number of bills to investors, raised capital, and the cargo ship loaded with goods purchased with the accumulated funds will soon be destroyed. The girl will definitely arrange this. She hopes that the mermaid's words about her being able to summon the Sea King are true. It is said that he answered the call of the man who owned the gem and granted his wish whether she should call him by name. When she said the name Sierra, the emerald stone immediately began to glow, and waves began to splash around. It turned out that the mermaid's words were true. The Sea King really can be summoned. At the sight of him, Rita could not help but be surprised. But the creature was indignant that he was several years older than her. There was no need to neglect their sacred home. The girl thanked her for answering her call. The mermaid who gave her the emerald said that the sea god could help her. The creature was indignant that this freak of seaweed had sold her again. But okay, an agreement is an agreement. Let her say why she called her. Having contacted her through the emerald, she got a chance. But she will only grant the wish once, so let her make a balanced decision. There is a limit to how such an excellent god like her can be involved in human affairs. Our heroine thought that all this was somehow suspicious, so she needed to find out more, after which she said that somehow she felt a strong aura from the gemstone. Sierra exclaimed that it was because of the gem she had chosen as her home. It was made from 100 mermaid tears. When Rita noted that she was the most capable of all, and asked how many times the mistress could interfere in human affairs, the mermaid replied that other gods could, at best, once every 500 years. But she could do it more than Then she realized that she had said something unnecessary. But it was too late, since our heroine heard everything. After which she added that it was a great honor for her to hear how Sierra grants wishes. There are only 2 of them, so she will. Meanwhile, Oscar came to the Archduke and asked when he was going to divorce Rita. The young man objected that he was not obliged to answer this question. The young man asked to at least hint, because he was not in the habit of courting other people's women. He hasn't tried to do this yet, but he warned her. So let her think about it before even though the guy is a killer, he doesn't intend to do anything vile. Joseph replied that he still doesn't feel obligated to answer this question. Spina noted to himself that he pretended to be indifferent, but always looked at him with a look as if he wanted to kill him. After the butler reported to her that a man who called himself Oscar had come to see His Highness, our heroine could not understand why he had come to see him. When she found the young man, she noted that the training had already ended. She paused for a second and thought that she didn't understand why they were called ghost eyes. They were just a beautiful color to look at. The young man asked what his wife was doing on the training ground. The girl replied that she did not find him in the office, and Dante said that he was busy training. Nothing like that happened, but she has something to tell him, or rather, a request. The young man immediately remembered the conversation with the assassin and replied that, no, our heroine did not understand. I mean, she hadn't even said anything yet, but his lordship continued that he would never allow them to divorce. The young man does not want to sign any contract, but the girl could not understand what this sudden conversation about divorce was about, after which she said that she understood that he did not want to sign the contract, but before that, he could do her one favor. She then handed him the stone and told him that it was the jewel of the sea god. In exchange for the mermaid's help, she wanted to use this power to create a port in Katan, where she could trade with Odabali. Even if Sierra calmed the rough waves, the entrance and exit of the harbor was still dangerous. Could he deal with the monsters there? The guy replied that, okay, he would organize a team to enslave. After which he asked if he could also ask for one favor. The girl replied that of course she could. When the young man said that he would like to borrow Oscar, Our heroine was very surprised. After some time, Joseph thought that he didn't know what to write. He didn't expect to be so When he said he wanted to send an assassin to Dawn, Rita was very surprised. It's a distant country, not easy to get to, a small coalition attached to the eastern edge of the continent, and to get there you have to cross the desert. Suddenly, Manuel appeared and asked what his lordship was doing anyway. Seeing that he was writing a letter to the mercenary King Tu, the boy exclaimed that this was the same man who led the Archduke to victory during the war in the West. But why did he suddenly decide to write him a letter? Looking at what Joseph wrote, it seems that there is absolutely nothing to say. It seems that they have not communicated with him since the war ended. Then he exclaimed that he was really going to send Oscar there. The young man noted to himself that apparently, Dante told him that Spino. The guy continued that the thing is that he doesn't understand the gentleman's motives. When he was in love with Bonnie, he did everything to separate her from Daniel, so he understands his feelings. The young man objected that he was not doing this out of personal feelings. It just takes time to determine if he really deserves it to be with his wife. The young man countered that Madame is not a child. He doesn't even realize how popular she's been in Catan lately, and even if Oscar really is a dangerous man, if his wife says it's okay, then what? He has no new choice but to respect the will of Madame. He must listen to the wishes of his wife. Joseph noted to himself that she had agreed to the marriage in the first place in order to escape from the Cardinal family. The Archduke shouldn't be so greedy towards his wife. Even though he knows it, something inside him twists. Suddenly, our heroine was informed that Prince George had come to see her and wanted to meet her. The girl asked me to tell him to wait a little, since she still had work to sort out. The money invested in the Cardinale was returned back, and all the expensive things that were on the ship sank. The bankruptcy of the Imperial Bank is only a matter of time. Then she asked if she could buy the products produced by Cardinale under the name Anna. Dante asked, under the name of his wife or something. The girl replied that, yes, if he helps her, she will definitely reward him. But she noted to herself that she knows that she is asking too much. But she does not want anyone to know that Katan is thirsty for Cardinale's property. She needs a person whose name is unknown to people from the outside. Suddenly, the butler asked her what she would do if they simply ran away with all the property. Our heroine smiled and replied that she didn't think she should worry about it. Dante and his wife were the ones who protected Joseph until the fall of Katan. So if she can't trust them, then who can? Therefore, when she added that she should trust him, the butler replied that he did not even know how to repay her for her trust. Rita replied that now that she had finished her work, could he first take her to the guest who had come to see her? When George saw our heroine, he exclaimed her name, and for some reason fell off the sofa. The girl asked if he was feeling unwell. The guy screamed that it was all because of her. Why didn't she tell him that the medicine she gave him had such serious side effects? Now it's difficult for him to even go outside. Rita objected that she warned him that there could be side effects. It seems the prince has been a bit overindulgent in his use of the potion, hasn't he? The young man exclaimed that he could do nothing. He had no time, because he did not know that Carlo's legs. Rumor has it that she was the one who cured his legs. Our heroine replied that it was true, but she thinks that he didn't hear about it from his father. The effect is only temporary, so soon they will not function again. George hissed that, however, this was the first time she had done anything without consulting him. He was afraid that she would come to Carlo's aid and not his. Let Rita not do this, because he said that he would make her empress. The girl objected that, hadn't he promised the same thing to Sabrine? She thought he was coddling her red hair and telling her it was beautiful. The guy exclaimed, was she crazy or something? Did she really think that he would marry a maid instead of her? Rita was the only one for him. He was just a little angry then. When asked if this meant that he was not in love with her, the young man shouted that, of course, no. Why would he love this worthless woman who was ready to give herself to? Hearing heavy breathing behind him, George turned around to see an enraged Sabrine. The girl asked him again what he had just said, and whether she had heard everything correctly. How could he even say such a thing when she was so desperately waiting for him? So she still had to serve the Katan family, despite being looked down upon. The young man knelt down on one knee in front of Rita and said that everything he had just said was true. He loved only her, not the maid. The maid noted to herself that he didn't care at all about her feelings, so she simply turned around and started to. Cardinal noted to herself that it was a good thing she had specifically told Sabrina to serve her. Now she understood her place. Then she looked at George and noted that, seeing how he was acting in front of the maid, she should have realized that the Cardinal were in danger. If their financial resources run out, she will also have problems. She thinks that they are clinging to her because Rita has started making a fortune in the alchemy business. After which she said how what she was throwing away could belong to her. The guy did not understand and asked again what she meant. Our heroine repeated how she could get rid of the prince, who was never hers. But she would not betray him. George came to ask her, but she is a ship that has already sailed, that left port long ago, a ship that was broken to pieces. Miracasol, which promotes new skin growth, Numagold, which promotes bone growth, and Niranov, which regenerates damaged nerves, is a 3 bottles. The prince's recovery had taken effect, but she never thought that he would ask for a sparring match with the captain of the royal guard once he returned to the imperial palace.